qualifying session yesterday, we limited 40 drivers down to a top 32, which is exactly what you're about to witness. So, yeah, if you know, we're going out on the live feed, and we're also going out on the speakers around the track as well. So if you're here at the track, thank you very much for coming down. We appreciate you supporting the not only the sport, but also the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So we limited 40 drivers yesterday down to top 32. The battles that will be going ahead in the top 32 are as follows. We've got Adam Frank versus Dan Firminger. We've got Mark Looney against Nicolette Santo. We've got Luke Woodham against Stephen Donnelly. We've got Adam Caregni against Stefano Alessandri. We've got Matt Tilliard against Dan Hall. We've got Francesco Conti against Ollie Elmore. We've got Amerigo Monteverde against Mark Lappage. We've got Paul Cheshire against Nicolo Rosso. We've got Benjamin Boobles against Norbert Kovacic. We've got Matt Camplin against Steve Moore. Mike Marshall against Reese Gamble. We've got Roman Colasar against Jay White. We've got Ryan Cooper against Marcus Muller. There was a battle with Shane Lynch and Christian Lewis, but unfortunately Shane Lynch has had some issues with his transmission and has had to drop out of the competition, which gives Christian Lewis a bye into the top 16. We've got Steve Biagioni against Ricky Emery. Again, unfortunately, Stephen Biagioni had engine failure, so Ricky Emery goes through into that one. And then we've got Paul Smith against Ariel Jaskowicz. So I hope I pronounce all these names correct. If you're watching us on the live feed and you're somewhere in Europe, I hope I get the drivers' names right who you're supporting. So forgive me if I don't. I'm not new to drifting. I do the commentary for a lot of the drift competitions in England, but obviously some of these drivers are new to me. The series is new to me, so just you have to bear with me. But yeah, so we've got some good battles ahead of us. We can see the cars just lining up there. Again, if you've just joined us, welcome to the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. Yesterday we'd limited 40 drivers down to a top 32. It was a very interesting day yesterday. During qualifying, we saw all the cars go out in qualifying, and then when it came down to the very last qualifying run, poor Nicolette Santo, she had to do hers in the wet. And I kept saying all day that we'd not seen any runs that really got the judges up and cheering and stuff. And it was that one wet run from Nicolette Santo that actually got the judges clapping, because she put in. I mean, she's the only female drifter in the competition, and for a wet run, I'm not joking, guys. If you did not see that run yesterday, I'll just say it was absolutely fantastic. It was a flawless wet run. She adapted to the wet conditions extremely quick. The judges and the organisers allowed her 2 practice runs, because when I say it was a wet run, it was bucketing it down. For all of you that were here yesterday, you'll know how wet it got on that run. So big hats off. I put my hands together for Nicolette Santo, because she drove that car absolutely fantastic yesterday in the wet. So a very well deserved qualification there. So yes, we're just waiting for the drivers to get ahead. I'll just let you know the first 2 battles. So we've got Adam Frank and Dan Firminger, and then Mark Looney against Nicola Santo. We're going to put them to the bottom for the simple fact Adam Frank has got some issues with his car, which he's trying to rectify, and also Mark Looney. He's experiencing some issues with his car as well. So the organisers and the judges have kindly let them have a bit of time to try and rectify these problems. So they're going to drop them back down to the bottom. So the first battle we're going to see is Luke Woodham versus Steve Donnelly. Luke Woodham's Monster Energy driver. And then we got Steve Donnelly all the way over from Scotland. So he's come quite a distance now. So the first run, it's not a practice. We're going straight into battle number 1. The lead car has to stick to the qualifying line that the judges wanted to see yesterday, and the chase car has to basically keep up door to door with the lead car. So they've had a lot of practice this morning. We've had dry conditions all morning as well. So the setup shouldn't actually be changing. So yeah, we obviously saw some nice consistency then between both drivers. If you're new to drifting, basically in the qualifying, they get a qualifying point out of 100. That puts them into their qualifying position, and then it's the top 32. So first goes against 32, second against 31, and so on until they meet in the middle. Then with the battles, as you just saw then, you have a lead car and a chase car. The lead car has to stick to the qualifying line, and then the chase car has to basically mirror everything that the lead car does. Once they've done one lap, they basically go around to the start line and do it all over again. So all it is this time is they switch around. So the lead car then becomes a chase car, and the chase car becomes a lead car. We've got our judges up here. And basically, it's as simple as they will decide who drove the better and who goes through to the next round. So we've got the battle number 2 now. Steve Donnelly is going to lead. Luke Woodham just tucking in nicely behind as they enter into the first corner. Luke Woodham's putting on a nice effort there just to try and keep with Steve Donnelly. He's got a lot of power in that Sora for Steve Donnelly. So Luke Woodham just running a very shallow angle, slightly straight there as they come down the hill. Both of them then break traction again and slide round the final corner. Not too bad at all. Not too bad from both drivers. Obviously, we saw issues from Luke Woodham there. So we'll just wait for the judges to see who goes through to the next round. Well, there's some chats going up here, guys. We're just trying to get a decision on that battle. Obviously, a couple of errors from both drivers, but was one error a lot worse than the other error. So, judges. Okay, so it's in agreement that we're going to actually run them one more time. We saw issues from both drivers then. We saw Luke straight, and then Steve Donnelly wasn't actually sticking to the qualifying line, and, and certain other things that they need to stick to with this. Okay, yeah. So basically, Julian Smith, one of our judges here, has just explained to me that a strict criteria for the qualifying run is when they come down the hill going into the final corner, they don't want to see any flicky manges. Basically, that's where they just keep drifting, but from left to right, and then finally link the final corner. From coming out of the hairpin to the final corner, they need to keep literally one whole drift all the way around, and due to that drivers not doing that, they wanted to see them run one more time. So basically, we did see 2 battles, but if the judges can't decide who goes through, they can run them again. I mean, in the past, we've seen 2 or 3 one more times run again and again and again. And I think after roughly, I think it's about the third one more time, then they have to make a decision overall from what they've seen out of all the 4 battles. So yeah, so we're just going to run them one more time. If that was confusing that you've seen the same drivers come round again. So yeah, so that was the first battle of the one more time. They're going to switch round now, and they're going to run the second battle. If you've just joined us on the live feed, welcome to the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. This is a European drift series that obviously tours around Europe. One of the events is held in the UK, which is this same one today, and it's been held at Lydden Hill today, down in Canterbury, Kent. Absolutely fantastic track, well known to a lot of drifters down here. We've got a lot of UK drivers trying to rock the boat a little bit for the Europeans. So yeah, it's you know, a lot of the UK drivers know this track very well. So and we've been seeing some very good runs from the UK drivers. But we've also got a lot of UK drivers that have been drawn against each other. So you know, it's just one of those things. It's, you know, we don't know what's going to happen, to be fair, at the end of the day, because we've had the UK drivers come and you know, put in absolutely fantastic runs, and then you've got some of the Europeans that have never driven this track before putting in some absolutely fantastic runs. So like Adam Frank, never driven this track before, came to practice yesterday. I think they got roughly about 4 or 5 hours practice yesterday. It was fantastic. It was just car after car after car. They must have brought a hell of a lot of tyres with them anyway. And yeah, Adam Frank just pulled it out the bag and top qualifier yesterday. So obviously he goes against 32, which is Dan Firminger. So Dan just managed to squeeze into qualifying. You'll see Dan later, one of our UK drivers, Nankang sponsored. He's got the Volvo V8, so that's a good car to watch. So it should be a good battle, because you know, I know Dan is he's a very smooth, very consistent driver, but he likes to get very, very close. So I think Adam Frank's got a bit of a battle on his hands. So we'll just wait and see for that one. But obviously, hopefully, fingers crossed, Adam does rectify the problems, the issues that he's got with his car, as well as Mark Looney. He's got some issues. That's why we've bumped the battles down to the bottom. So yeah, so we got Luke Woodham, Steve Donnelly that we're just waiting to come back onto the line to run the second battle. I think he may be experiencing some issues. We've got one car. I think that's Luke Woodham. Yeah, by the looks of it, I'm in the tower on the furthest point away from where the start line is. So we got Luke Woodham currently on the starting line. There he is. He's just poking through the pack there, and as he gets onto the start line. So we saw 2 battles. The judges couldn't decide between them. They couldn't get a unanimous decision on who would actually go through to the next round. So they're running them again. So it's called a one more time, we call it in the UK. So basically they've done one battle, and now this is the final battle. So let's see what we can do. So Steve Donnelly's the lead car. Luke Woodham chase car. A bit of a lead there from Steve Donnelly, just rubbing the grass a little bit. Luke Woodham just washing out a little bit wider, scrubbing off a bit of speed coming up to the hairpin on turn 2. Remember, the lead car has to stick to the qualifying line, and also there should be no mangying at this point, and they need to keep a consistent drift all the way around the final corner. So not a bad run from both drivers there. Let's see if the judges can make a decision on that one. Okay, I can confirm that out of that battle, the judges have made a decision. Due to slight errors from one of the drivers, it was a unanimous decision, and I can confirm going through to the top 16 is Stephen Donnelly. Okay, next battle that we've got coming off the line, we've got Adam Cariani against Stefano Alessandri. So this is the first battle of the BMWs by the looks of it. Absolutely fantastic qualifying runs yesterday from Alessandri and Cariani. So looking nice coming down the line. A little bit straight from Alessandri there. But coming around the final corner, off track there. Was that more than 3 wheels? They normally run, if one wheel goes off track in the UK, that's normally a 0. But the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series basically can allow 3 wheels off the track. So yeah, they can have 3 wheels off the track. As long as they got 1 wheel on the track, it still counts. So yeah. So obviously on that first run there, we saw Alessandri just putting a few wheels off track. He will be marked down for it though. You know, it is allowed, but it will be marked down. Obviously, we want to see the driver stick on the track and stick to that qualifying line. However, they're going to switch him around now. Alessandri's going to be the lead car. Cariani's going to be the chase car. Big lead there from Alessandri into the first corner. Lots of angle from both drivers as they enter into the first corner. Alessandri just putting the power down, smoking up them tyres as he comes round to the second hairpin. Bit of a gap being created here as they both put the power down coming into the final corner. Alessandri just opening that gap. Not a bad run at all. Obviously, we saw a big gap there being created. Carregni just struggling to keep up with Alessandri. Was he sticking to the qualifying line though? You know, it's all these things you've got to think about when it comes to drifting. You know, you may be drifting all the way around the track and it does look cool, but they've still got to stick to that qualifying line, and the judges will mark them down if they don't. So, you know, it's just one of those things. You know, they think you can look good. You know, they've got a load of speed, they've got a load of angle, they're smoking the tyres up, but they need to stick to that qualifying line. There's certain criteria that they've still got to stick to. So, just waiting for an answer now on that battle. Okay, so based on the first run, Adam Carregni kept in the qualifying line. We saw Alessandri run off the track a little bit in the final corner on the first battle. Second battle was quite an even battle, really. It was you know, the judges were happy with giving that a 5-5. So due to the first mistake that Alessandri made in the first run, I can confirm that Adam Carregni is going to proceed into the top 16. So next battle that we should be seeing is two UK drivers being drawn against each other. We've got Matt Tilliard from Team GDA against Dan Hall. Matt Tilliard, the lead car there in the black Nissan S14. And we've got Dan Hall in the silver Nissan Skyline R32. So Matt Tilliard, I saw him in practice yesterday and in qualifying. He was putting in some fantastic entries into turn one. With the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series, they like to see attack angle and the attack speed into the first corner. And Matt Tilliard was putting in some fantastic qualifying runs yesterday and actually qualified 4th. So he's going against Dan Hall, who qualified 29th. So hats off to Matt Tilliard for his runs yesterday. He obviously knows this track quite well. So hats off to him. So they're going to make their way back round to the start line, switch around. Dan Hall is going to be the lead car in the silver Skyline, and Matt Tilliard is going to take the position at the back and be the chase car. So basically the lead car has to stick to the qualifying line. If I keep repeating myself, it's only because people are joining us all the time on this live feed. So, you know, I've got to keep explaining the sport of drifting just so people know what's going on. So here we go into the first battle. Some good angle from both drivers. So Dan Hall there just putting in some good speed into the first corner. Scrubbing off a little bit of speed, allowing Matt Tilliard to catch up a little bit. Bit sketchy coming into this hairpin a little bit. But Dan Hall putting the power down on that Skyline. A little bit straight there from Matt Tilliard coming down into the final corner. But not too bad. Not too bad at all from both drivers. So that was the second battle. The judges are obviously up here with me, and you know, I can hear them conferring. I'm trying to talk over them, they're trying to talk over me. So I'm just going to wait for an answer and see who progresses into the top 16. So going through, that final battle was a 5-5, as we saw in the other battle before that. But due to slight mistakes from Dan Hall, I can confirm that Matt Tilliard goes through into the top 16. Okay, so the next battle we should be seeing is Francesco Conti against UK driver Ollie Elmore. So this should be a good battle. Ollie Elmore, obviously the Boss Motorsport driver, knows this track quite well. Very consistent driver, as we saw yesterday in qualifying. Francesco Conti qualified 13th. Ollie Elmore qualified 20th. Sorry. So we're still up and to the top and the bottom of the scale of the qualifying runs. Obviously, as we progress down, we'll start seeing like quite the drivers that are actually qualifying in the middle. So similar qualifying runs that we saw yesterday. So very wide there from Ollie Elmore, just putting it into the gravel, making a huge mistake, giving a massive advantage to Francesco Conti in that absolutely fantastic car. Beautifully prepared BMW that. He's obviously come over from Europe, thinking that I can take on these UK boys, and the UK boys are fighting back obviously because they've come up in force today. So we've got quite a few UK drivers, but a huge error there from Ollie Elmore, just sending it in a little bit too fast, a little bit too much angle, couldn't put the grip down, and just washed out into the gravel. So unfortunately for Ollie Elmore, he's got everything to play for now in this next run, because Francesco Conti must have the huge advantage going into this battle. He's Ollie Elmore's really got to pull something out the bag now. So we're going to see them switch around now. Ollie Elmore is going to take the lead car. Francesco Conti is going to take the chase position. Remember, the lead car has to stick to the qualifying line that we saw yesterday in obviously in qualifying. So here we go off the line. Ollie Elmore in the Nissan Skyline, boss down the side of it. You'll see it there coming into the first corner. Francesco Conti in the fantastically prepared BMW E92. Coming into the hairpin, some nice angle there from Ollie as he pulls it down the hill. Francesco Conti slightly straight as they come into the final corner. Loads of angle from Ollie Elmore. Ollie Elmore really pulled it out of the bag then to try and gain some points back on that first battle. Okay, so based on the first run, Ollie Elmore actually had the advantage on that second run. I think I just overheard the judges. I think it was a 7-3 to Ollie on that final run. But due to the huge error that he made in the first corner on the first battle, I can confirm Francesco Conti is progressing into the top 16. So next battle that we should be seeing up there, we've got Team Acorn Motorsport Division's Mark Lappage. Lappage struggling yesterday in in practice, but put some consistent qualifying runs in, and he's going against Amerigo Monteverdi. So Monteverdi is the lead car in the BMW E46. Mark Lappage in the Team Acorn Infiniti Nissan S13. Mark Lappage built his car himself with his teammates. Oh, and a bit of contact there. Mark Lappage just nudging Monteverdi there as they come into the hairpin. I don't know what the judges are going to do there. Did he make a mistake to actually prevent Mark Lappage from not giving him enough time to shut off? Was that Mark Lappage's fault? Did he give him a gentle love tap just to say I'm here? Obviously, it put Mark Lappage off his line. If it was a fault of Monteverdi, the advantage will go to Lappage. So we're just. Okay, yeah, so the judges have just confirmed. After watching the action replay, that's the beauty about having this live feed. We can watch it over on the replay. And basically, Monteverdi kept to the qualifying line. Mark Lappage just coming in a little bit too hot and giving him that gentle love tap. So I think that's awarded a 10-0 to Monteverdi. So Mark Lappage has now got to pull it out the bag. Obviously, hopefully he's not done too much damage to his Nissan S13, to his Acorn Infiniti car. So hopefully we can run them. Battle number 2. Obviously, Mark Lappage is now going to become the lead car. He's got everything to play for now. He's really got to pull out of the bag. I think basically to see her one more time on this, Monteverdi's basically got to go off track or make a huge mistake. But Lapis doesn't seem to be phased, coming in quite hot into this first corner. Some nice angle there, but Monteverdi's still on Lapige's case there. A little bit of a gap created as Lapis just smokes up those infinities. Sticking to the qualifying line, Mark Lapis then coming out of that hairpin. But I tell you what, from the first battle, Mark Lapis definitely wasn't phased from having the disadvantage coming into the second battle. So let's just see who goes through. Okay, so there was a massive advantage, the judges just said then, to Mark Lapage in that second run. Unfortunately, the advantage wasn't strong enough to overcome the disadvantage that he had from the first run. So I can confirm that Amerigo Monteverdi goes through into the top 16. So if you've just joined us on the live feed, welcome. You are watching the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. I'm your commentator for the day, Anthony Cahill. If you're around the track, we're glad you're here. We're glad that the sun's out. You know, it's looking good. You know, we should be seeing some good smoky drifts today. Obviously, we're still in the top 32. We're running through them as you can see. So as soon as we've done the top 32, then we're going to do a top 16. From that top 16, we're going to limit them down to 8, and then from the 8, we're going to limit them down into the semi-finals, and then basically we run a battle for 3rd and 4th, and then the final battle is the battle for that one all-important position on that podium, that number 1 position. So obviously the Europeans have come a long way. You know, we've got people from Slovakia, Poland, Italy, you know, from all over Europe. So, you know, they want to come here. They want to put a mark down on UK drifting and say, look, we can do this too. Obviously, drifting in the UK is a very strong sport. It's still progressing in Europe, and this is fantastic that we're seeing a European Championship come to the UK, and basically try and see what our UK boys are up to. So into the first battle, the next battle we got is Paul Cheshire from Team Falcon against Nicolo Rosso. So lead car is Paul Cheshire in the G35 Falcon car, and Nico Rosso is in the Nissan S14 as the chase car. Now, Paul Cheshire was absolutely fantastic in practice yesterday. I think he's running on a new set of tyres that he's not used to be using in the UK. So, but they seem to be working quite well for him, putting in some good runs. Qualified 12th yesterday. Nicolo Rosso qualified 21st, so we're getting to the centre of the pack soon. So we should be starting to see some good close battles, obviously, because like the person who qualifies first goes against 32nd, second against 31st, and so on until they meet in the middle. So you see a big difference in the battles at the beginning, and then as we progress down. You start seeing like people who qualified 14th and 19th, Matt Camplin, Steve Moore. We should see some good close battles from them too. So so we're just getting through the top 32. If you've just joined us, welcome to the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. Thank you for watching us on the live feed. We're currently watching the second battle from Paul Cheshire in the G35 Falcon Skyline. Against Nicolo Rosso. Now, Rosso is the lead car, but Paul Cheshire is all over that S14, tucking it into that corner, just giving him that extra bit of pressure as he comes round the hairpin. But Paul Cheshire was all over Nicolo Rosso. It didn't put him off his line at all, but he was just telling him, I'm here. And I know that 2JZ that he's got in that G35 is, it's a very loud car. So when you've got his bonnet literally next to your door, you're going to hear the screamer pipe, giving it some. So, he's going to be saying, I'm here. We are the UK. We're not going to let you Europeans come over and rock the boat. So, Paul Cheshire just putting on a good show there. So the judges are just watching the action replay actually, just to get clarification on, was there any lines being put out? Did anybody come off the qualifying line and things? Obviously, like I mentioned before, the drivers have to drift the track. That's all being well, but there's certain criteria. They've got to stick to the qualifying line. So the lead car has to stick to the qualifying line. If the chase car sticks to the qualifying line and the lead car goes off, the person who stays to the qualifying line is going to gain advantage over the other driver who doesn't stick to the qualifying line, even if a huge gap's created, because they could be running wide on one corner. Like the qualifying line could be wide on one corner, and the other driver could run a shallow line and get a bit of an opener gap. If that's happened, the advantage will go to the driver who sticks to the qualifying line. So so the judges have just been watching the action replays just to try and decide who goes through, and I don't think they can actually make a unanimous decision. So. Right, okay, so Julian Smith, thank you, Julian, for just confirming that. Both drivers making some issues, making some mistakes there, and due to that, they can't make a decision on who goes through because both runs were, they were making mistakes, so they're going to actually run them one more time. So we're just going to take the cars off the line who was ready to go, and we're going to bring Paul Cheshire and Nicolo Rosso back onto the start line, and we're going to run battle number 1 of this one more time. Okay, so this is the first battle of the one more time. Paul Cheshire, lead car in the Team Falcon G35 against Nicolo Rosso in the Nissan S14. So into the first corner, lots of angle there from Paul Cheshire as he enters into the first corner, but Nicolo Rosso just sticking to Paul Cheshire as they come into this second hairpin. They're going to put pedal to the metal now as they come down the line. Paul Cheshire screaming that 2JZ in that G35 as they come around the final bend. Again, not bad from both drivers, quite close. Quite close run from both. So the beauty about this live feed is we can, watch these action replays, which you can see at home. I know you people around the track obviously can't watch it unless you've got your gadgets out and you're watching it on your phone or your tablet or something like that. But for you people at home, you can watch these live action replays, and it really does come in handy for the judges because it's difficult to make a decision when these drivers are both out there, and they're both making slight errors. If both drivers become straight at one point, but one's straight for a little bit longer than the other, if you're keeping up with me, then there's an advantage goes to the one who doesn't stay straight for as long as the other driver. So there's all these things that have got to come into play when we're talking about drifting, because it's not as simple as just driving into a corner, pulling the handbrake and powering out the corner. There's so much criteria that they've got to stick to, and that number one, I'm going to keep repeating myself, is sticking to that qualifying line. Also, coming out of the hairpin when they start dropping down the hill, they shouldn't be straight there, and they shouldn't be putting in a manji. And basically a manji is when you drift from left to right down a straight, just keeping a drift going on. What the judges want to see is as they come out of the hairpin, the line that they've done, the qualifying line, if they stick to it, it should work out well in their advantage by keeping a constant drift. So basically they're going to be drifting around this huge, it's almost straight, but it's actually a right-handed corner, and then it goes up the hill into the cambered corner around the final corner. So the two main things is they've got to stick to the qualifying line, and they've got to keep a consistent drift from the turns 2 to connecting it to turns 3. So there's all these things that take to place, and it does cause arguments between the judges and things. It's hard to make a decision when it basically goes down to this driver who's trying to progress into the next round. So I don't know if you can hear them, but I'm in the same room as the judges, and there's definitely some conferring going on here to see who goes through. So this gives me a good opportunity to explain a 5-minute rule. basically what happens is if with drifting, you go through quite a lot of tires and so to speak, and sometimes you need to change your tyres if you're in the middle of a battle. And what you can do is you can pull a thing called a 5-minute rule. And basically what that means is, from the start line, as soon as you leave the start line, you can enter into the pits, but as soon as you leave the start line, that 5 minutes does start, and you have to be back on the line within those 5 minutes. If you're not back on the line within those 5 minutes, it's an instant disqualification, and the driver who is sat on the line automatically goes through into the next round. So we've just seen Paul Cheshire from Team Falcon just drive off track into the pits to change tyres. He's got a very good pit team behind him, so I'm quite confident that they'll get those tyres changed. So we're just waiting for him to get his tyres changed and then get back onto the track. But the 5 minutes, the clock is ticking. We're on a tight schedule here, so I think we're going to run the next battle just while we're waiting for Paul Cheshire. So we've got Benjamin Bubbles against Norbert Kovacic. So please excuse me if I don't pronounce these names right, but Bubbles in the BMW E36 against Kovacic. Now Kovacic actually drives a BMW M6 in this drift series, and it's a car that we've never seen in the UK being driven like this before. And I tell you, both these cars are fantastic. They sound absolutely brilliant. Both drivers in qualifying were fantastic. In practice yesterday, faultless. So I can tell you, Bubbles qualified third. Kovacic qualified 30th, so we're still at the top and bottom end of the scales when it comes to the qualifying here. But yeah, Bubbles was the lead car then in the BMW E36, running a very wide setup on his wheels, so he's got some very wide setup that adds extra grip, and it means you can do certain stuff to cambers and things like that. So the wheels may look like they're sticking out of the arches, but they're there for a reason. They're doing the job. They set these cars. They set the cars up to. They push the limits for these cars, because basically a car is supposed to drive in a straight line. It's supposed to grip. They're pushing a car against the limits it was built to do. So, it's fantastic. And then also on the other end of the scale, you've got Kovacic, who's got this BMW M6. He basically, I was having a chat with him yesterday. He went to a BMW dealer and bought a BMW M6, took it home and stripped it. Absolutely fantastic. The money that has been pumped into these cars from this series is fantastic. But obviously we're seeing him switch around now. Kovacic in the lead car in the BMW M6 against Bubbles in the E36 chase car. So not a bad run then for both drivers, as you can see. Obviously we've got the people watching the live feed. If you just joined us, welcome to the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. Yesterday we did the qualifying session. If you were watching us yesterday, if you've only just started joining us, we limited 40 drivers yesterday in qualifying down to a top 32, which is exactly what you're watching now. We've seen a handful of battles at the moment. We're getting through the top 32. Once we've limited 32 drivers down to 16, we're going to limit those 16 down to 8 down to 4, and then we're going to run the battle for third and fourth, and then the final battle for first and second. So keep watching, guys, because we're going to see some fantastic battles. We've obviously got a lot of the UK drivers have come to force competing in the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series, but then we've also got the regulars that compete in this championship who travel around Europe. But this is the UK event, and we're at Lydden Hill down in Kent. So we're running battle number 2 of this one more time. We've got Paul Cheshire and Nicolo Rosso. Obviously, Nicolo Rosso has taken the lead car position in this second battle. Paul Cheshire just giving him a bit more room than we saw in the last battle. Oh, looks like we've got some issues there from Paul Cheshire's car. Coming into that final corner, it was popping and banging like it shouldn't be doing. So maybe that's some issues, but obviously it happened during the actual drift track and actually in the drift zone. So he will be marked down for it, even though it wasn't his fault and he's experiencing these engine problems. Maybe he still will get marked down for it. So I'm just waiting for a decision on who goes through to the next round. Right, so I can confirm out of the battle between Paul Cheshire and Nicolo Rosso, due to that last issue of Paul Cheshire, unfortunately for him, puts him out of the competition, and Nicolo Rosso actually goes through into the top 16. Before that battle, we saw Benjamin Bubbles and Norbert Kovacic couldn't make a decision, so they're running them one more time. Now, Bubbles making a huge mistake there coming into the first corner. But Kovacic just keeping that nice steady drift on the attack speed and attack angle into the first corner. But not a bad run there from Kovacic as he's trying to keep up with Bubbles as much as possible into that final corner. Both of them smoking up them tyres. Not a bad run. We saw the issue in the first corner from Bubbles making a huge mistake. And obviously he will be marked down for that. But obviously we're in it one more time. That was the battle number 1. We're going to reverse them now, and Kovacic will now become the lead car. Bubbles will become the chase car. So obviously it's not over yet. They've still got everything to play for. And we're in the top 32 of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So we're up here in Lydden Hill in Kent. Welcome to everybody who's actually here watching it live. We appreciate your support. Like I say, we're trying to limit 32 drivers down to a top 16. The 32 drivers went into a qualification yesterday, and we're good enough to qualify. We limited 40 drivers down to 32, and this is what we're trying to get through now. So this is the second battle of the one more time between Benjamin Bubbles and Norbert Kovacic. Now, Kovacic is now the lead car in the BMW M6. A lot of power from both of these cars. You've got Benjamin Bubbles in the E36. Bit snappy there coming up into the hairpin, into turns 2. But Bubbles is all over Kovacic as they come round that that second hairpin, and then into the final corner. Both of them foot to the floor as they're screaming those two BMWs round the corner. I tell you, we've got a clap from the judges on that run. Not a bad run at all. So let's see if the judges can make a decision, and we'll see who goes through into the top 16. Okay, so the judges have got a decision on that one, and I can confirm that Benjamin Bubbles is through to the top 16. So unfortunately, Norbert Kovacic is out of the competition. So next battle that we're going to be seeing, Matt Camplin against Steve Moore, 2 UK drivers. Now, they might be both UK drivers, but one driver sticks to the UK, Steve Moore. He sticks to the UK and competes in the British Drift Championship. Matt Camplin, however, actually competes in the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So here we go into the first corner. Matt Camplin is the lead car. He's got so much angle into that first corner. But Steve Moore, we call him Speed Moore in the British Drift Championship because he's so consistent and fast when he's going around this track. He knows this track extremely well. Been competing in the British Drift Championship since it ever started. So I think that must be 6 or 7 years. But not bad at all from Steve Moore, just keeping up with Matt Camplin, as Matt Camplin put in quite a decent run there in the first battle. Obviously, we get 2 battles as we've been seeing. Lead car, then chase car, and then we swap it round. We do battle number 2, and then the lead car then becomes a chase car then becomes a lead car. We do it all again, and the judges up here have a big argument, which is what's happening at the moment. And then we obviously have a winner, and they progress into the top 16. Once we've got the 16 drivers, then they battle again, and then they go through into the next round, which is the top 8. Then we limit 8 drivers into 4, and then from 4, we limit them into a final, but then we still run a battle for 3rd and 4th. So, when you get into the semi-final, it's not game over yet. You've still got to go against the 2 losers from the top 4 for that all-important final position on the podium, the number 3. So so it's still important when you're in the top 4. If you both lose, you've still got a battle again. So it's not game over there. And then obviously once we've run that, we run we run the final. So if you've just joined us, welcome to the live feed. My name's Anthony Cale. I'm the commentator for the day. You're watching the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series live here at Lydden Hill in Kent. So second battle this in. We're still in the top 32. Steve Moore in the red Nissan S14 against Matt Camplin in the green Nissan S13. Both of these drivers have had these cars for many, many years, so they know how to pilot these cars. You know, they really know how to drive them hard. But Steve Moore just creating quite a big gap there as he powers around that final corner. Matt Camplin just struggling to keep up with him as he comes into that. As he goes around that final corner. So we've seen two battles now from each. Now, can the judges make a decision on who wins, or will they run them one more time? You know, it just comes down to these things where the judges have to then bash the reds together and come to a unanimous decision to who progresses into the top 16 into the next round. So I'll just give me a second. I'll just wait and see. The judges are watching some action replay, so maybe one of the judges thought that there was did one make a mistake at a certain point? Did one step off the qualifying line that the drivers have got to stick to, which they actually ran a qualifying line yesterday during qualifying, and even during the battles they've got to stick to that qualifying line. If they step off that line, you know, they're going to get marked down quite big for it, because obviously if the other driver sticks to the qualifying line, you know, the advantage is going to go to him. So let's just see if the judges have got a decision. Right, okay, I can confirm that that last battle was a 5-5, so it all comes down to the first battle. And there was an actual decision on a 6-4, and the 6-4, and progressing into the next round, I can confirm that Matt Camplin is through to the top 16. So stepping up to the plate, up on the start line, we've got two more drivers. Like I said, we're still in the top 32. We're trying to limit them down. We've got qualifier number 8, Mike Marshall, against qualifier 27, Reese Gamble. Again, two UK drivers drawn against each other. Two BMW E36s. So, you know, but one's an estate. Mike Marshall, obviously, winner of the BDC. He is actually a champion. Team M&M are here. I can hear them honking them horns. So, you know, big respect to the Team M&M lot who always come in force. Obviously, local track this for Mike Marshall. So Mike Marshall is going to take the position of the lead car, obviously, because he was a higher qualifier. He's against Reese Gamble. Reese Gamble putting in a very strange entry there into the first corner as Mike Marshall puts in a consistent, nice attack speed and attack angle into the first corner. Both of them coming up into the hairpin. Reese Gamble not as much angle, which giving him, you know, which is allowing him to try and close that gap as much as possible. But Mike Marshall putting the power down in that 2JZ. This BMW E36 is powered by a Toyota engine, so you know Mike Marshall definitely knows how to build a drift car. He's built some fantastic drift cars in the past, which he has used in the British Drift Championship and has actually become a champion of the Super Pro class there. So you know he definitely knows his track well as well. So obviously that was battle number 1. We're going to reverse them round. We saw Reese Gamble into the first corner there with a very sketchy entry. Now, the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series like to see a thing called attack speed and attack angle. And they have a telemetry system here. So the sensors on the cars, they take a mapping of the track, and then they've got a telemetry system which actually gives you the average attack speed and attack angle into the first corner and during the clipping points as well. So, you know, it's absolutely fantastic. They can refer back to the telemetry if they need to see, you know, who had more angle here, who had more attack speed here, and so on. You know, the technology is fantastic. We've never seen it before in the UK, so it's, you know, it's good to see. But a bit of a better entry there from Reese Gamble into the first corner. Obviously, both of these driving a BMW E36. Reese Gamble in the white coupe, and you've got Mike Marshall in the BMW E36 estate. So. Bit slow from both drivers coming around that hairpin, but both of them need to put foot to the floor around this final corner. Oh, Mike Marshall pushing Reese Gamble around that final corner. The judges actually applauded him for that. He was pushing Reese Gamble around that final corner. Absolutely fantastic run from Mike Marshall. I think I know the answer, but I'm just going to get a definite decision from the judges. Basically, I just got, yeah, he was awesome. So I think that was Mike Marshall goes through into the top 16. Unfortunately, it's home time for Reese Gamble, and we'll see Mike Marshall progress into the top 16 of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So one of the big reasons why he won that, the judges were just saying, Mike Marshall never actually does a Scandinavian flick into the first corner. He normally does, you know, a nice entry, nice smooth entry. But because Reece Gamble actually did what we call a Scandinavian flick into the first corner, it's Mike Marshall's job to mirror the first driver. You know, he's got to mirror everything that the lead car has to offer. And Mike Marshall did actually Scandinavian flick it, which is not what he's used to doing, but he still did it, and he was all over Reece Gamble. So, you know, hats off to Mike Marshall there, who's progressed into the top 16. All I have to do is mention Team M&M, and they're all there blowing the horns and cheering for him and stuff. We've got a few drivers in from Team M&M, you know, with Jay White, which we'll be seeing shortly. So they're definitely here in force. So, as always, we see him in the British Drift Championship as well. So, if you've just joined us on the live feed, my name's Anthony Kell. I'm your commentator for the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. You have not missed anything yet. Basically, we're trying to get through the top 32. We're going to limit them down to a top 16. We've got approximately 4, 5, maybe 6 battles left to see who's going into the top 16. We had 2 battles at the start, which we bumped down to the bottom. So if you think you've missed them, the 2 battles, Adam Frank and Dan Firminger. Adam Frank has actually got a few problems with his car, so they're allowing him to fix it. So they bumped his battle down to the bottom. And then we got UK driver Mark Looney against Nicolette Santo. Now Mark Looney is experiencing some problems as well. I've not had any confirmation that they've fixed these cars yet, so I don't actually know what's happening. But they've been bumped to the bottom. But for now, we're going to see a battle from Roman Kolesa against Team M&M driver Jay White. So straight into battle number 1. There is no practice run. They had a lot of practice this morning, and straight into battle number 1. Now Roman Kolesa in the Dots BMW E46 knows how to drive that car, and he was absolutely fantastic in qualifying yesterday. Actually qualified 11th. Jay White from Team M&M driving the Nissan S14 knows this track extremely well. He's been here a few times with the BDC. And he qualified 22nd. So, you know, it just goes to show that these Europeans, you know, have you know, they've got something behind them when it comes to drifting. You know, they are a consistent, you know, some of them seem to be very consistent drivers. And, you know, the UK does actually welcome these European drift series, you know, because the more the more the drifting gets put out in Europe, you know, the better, because, you know, we obviously want the sport to progress. We want it to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Obviously, we've got the UK, the competition, the British Drift Championship, which has just completely dominated England. But it stays, you know, well, we go to Scotland as well and things. So, you know, it stays in the UK. The Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series actually travels around Europe, hence the name. And the one round in the UK is this very same one today, and that's, you know, at Lydden Hill in Canterbury. So yeah, we're just waiting for the second battle for Roman Kolesa and Jay White. Kolesa just had to shut off the power a little bit just to allow that that gap to just get a little bit bigger, but very straight there from Kolesa. Massive error there as they enter into the final corner from Kolesa. The judges just said we've got the windows open in the tower here, and you actually heard him miss a gear, so it could just go as simple as that. Now, I can tell you in the first run, Jay White got a massive advantage in the first corner, but the judges just told me that he lost that advantage by making minor mistakes for the rest of the track, as Kolesa put in, you know, quite a consistent run. So, you know, it's just like you would not exactly throw it away, but, you know, you have the advantage, and it can just, you know, by the time you get into the end of it, you can lose it. But obviously we saw Kolesa then miss a gear coming into the final corner, making a massive error. Was that error big enough to put Jay White through? I'm just waiting for the judges, so give me a sec. Okay, so due to that error, that was big enough to give a huge advantage to Jay White. So Jay White goes through into the top 16. So unfortunately, Roman Kolesa came here to the UK thinking that you know, he's good enough to qualify and everything, which he put in a fantastic qualifying run yesterday to qualify 11th. But Jay White, 22nd qualifier, UK driver for Team M&M, knows this track extremely well. You know, rocked the boat and said, well, you Europeans want to come over here, I'll show you what I'm made of. And We just saw it, but unfortunately Roman Kolesa missing a gear, just that slight error can just send you home, and he's going to go into the pits. He's going to be upset with himself. So some of these drivers actually run sequential gearboxes to stop that from happening, obviously, because if you're in a drift and you need to gear up, you've got to put the clutch in and find that gear. Now, some people are running standard gearboxes, or they've upgraded a gearbox, but it's still a H shift. A lot of these drivers now are starting to upgrade to sequential gearboxes, because obviously it's clunk straight in, and that it's in the correct gear as well, because obviously you've got some people that go for third gear and actually find fifth. And obviously, if you do that, you're gonna lose your drift. It's gonna penalise you by points, and it's not good really. So these sequential gearboxes that are coming through, I know a lot of the Team Jap Speed drivers, they're running them as well, and they seem to be working really well. But into the next battle, we've got Team It's a Drift Life driver Ryan Cooper against Marcus Muller. Marcus Muller is the chase car there in the BMW E46. Did very well yesterday in practice, seems to be very consistent, but making a few errors coming out of that hairpin. He came out of that hairpin quite straight, actually. Ryan Cooper screaming that RB25, absolutely fantastic sounding Skyline. But yeah, so, slight errors like coming out of that hairpin there, as we saw Muller make a minor mistake coming into that hairpin. That'll just... That'll just knock it a little bit. Now, the way it's judged on this is basically it's a ratio of 10. So if both drivers stick to the qualifying line and put in a nice consistent run each, it'll be a 5-5. If one makes a slight mistake, the advantage goes to them a little bit. So it'd be like a 6-4. If one driver spins, it's a 10-0. So it's always a ratio out of 10. And due to slight mistakes then from Muller, Ryan Cooper actually has the advantage going into this battle with a 6-4, but it's only a 6-4. We could get a 7-3 next towards on an advantage of Muller, and that would put Muller through. So it's like one of the judges said yesterday, you can go from hero to zero so fast in this sport. So we're just going to wait for the marshals to give us the go ahead, and then we're going to run battle number 2. Obviously they're going to swap round. Marcus Muller will take the position of the lead car. Ryan Cooper from Team It's a Drift Life in the turquoise Nissan Skyline R33. He's going to tuck in behind Marcus Muller. Obviously, he's got the advantage going into this battle, so he just needs to play it cool, really. Not really making any mistakes. He needs to play it cool. He doesn't know he's got the advantage. He was the lead car, to be fair, in that one. So he may not have seen the error that Muller made coming out of that hairpin. So he might just think we both put a good run in. It could be still quite even, which it is. It's only 6-4, but like I say, the advantage could go higher to Muller in this run and put Cooper out. So let's see what this battle number 2 does. So we've got Muller as the lead car in the BMW E46. Some nice angle from both drivers there. Obviously, the judges wanted to see attack speed and attack angle. So aggressive speed into the first corner. Loads of smoke coming from both drivers as they enter into the hairpin. Muller with loads of angle. Ryan Cooper making the same mistake that Muller made in the first run, but he was straight for some time then as he came out of that hairpin. So like I said, you can go from hero to zero. He just needed to play it cool. He made a slight error. If we watch the action replay, he actually did go fairly straight coming out of the hairpin. So it's just wait for the judges to make a decision on that one. Obviously, Ryan Cooper had the advantage going into that second battle by a 6-4, but he made a mistake in the second battle. Was it bad enough to put Muller through, or was it? Are they going to run it one more time? What? Okay, so the judges have just told me that battle was a 7-3 to Marcus Muller, which is obviously strong enough to beat the 6-4 from Ryan Cooper in the first battle. So unfortunately, it's home time for Ryan Cooper, and Marcus Muller progresses into the top 16. So on the start line, by the looks of it, we've got Paul Smokey Smith from Team Jap Speed against Ariel Jaskowicz. I can't even say this name. Jaskowicz. Ariel Jaskowicz. Now, I said yesterday that Jaskowicz has come here all the way from Poland. My apologies. He actually lives in the UK. He's actually a local. He only lives quite close to the track. Obviously, he competes in the BDC, but I took a year out last year and didn't actually commentate the BDC, so I didn't actually know. But in my paperwork, he said he was Polish, so I thought he'd come from Poland. Obviously, it's a European drift competition, and so my apologies goes out to Ariel for that mistake. But Paul Smokey Smith turning on that smoke tap, coming out of that Nissan S15, powered by a 1JZ Toyota engine, loads of power. Again, Paul Smith's running a sequential gearbox. Ariel powering that very powerful Boss Motorsport Toyota Sora. So, similar engines out of these cars and similar powers as well. Obviously, we see Paul Smith. He has been a British Drift champion before, so he knows this track very well. Obviously, so does Ariel. Obviously, being so close. Both well-prepared cars, so it could be anyone's game. This, obviously, we've seen people being knocked out for making very slight errors. There's not been a clear winner, yet. As well, the Mike Marshall battle we saw, that was quite clear. But we've not seen a 10-0 and a 10-0. It's always been quite close, 7-3s, 6-4s. So we're still yet to see these drivers pull it out the bag. Now, I don't know whether they're all playing it safe because they're going to bring the aggression as soon as it gets to the top 16. But obviously, it's anyone's game still. We've got a lot of drivers still to go through, and there's only 3 spots on that podium. So into the second battle, Ariel in the Sora, absolutely fantastic looking car there. Boss down the side, Boss Motorsport from Team Boss. Into the second corner, Paul Smith just trying to close that gap. Ariel very wide there coming out the hairpin. Very straight as Paul Smith just closes that gap, putting his rear quarter onto Ariel's Sora as they came out of that hairpin, and both empowering it round that final corner. Absolutely fantastic run there from Paul Smith. Ariel, we saw him run very, very wide. Paul Smith stuck to the qualifying line, so, that will give Paul Smith a big advantage. So that was battle number 2. Let me just see if the judges have got a decision. Yeah, so it was a clear winner, that one, from both runs. Obviously, we saw Ariel make some errors in Battle 1 and Battle number 2, which obviously gave a huge advantage to Paul Smith. And I can tell you that Team Jack Speed driver Paul Smokey Smith is going to progress into the top 16. So that's basically we're getting through the top 32. We've only got 2 battles left. Obviously, there was 2 drivers that dropped out. We had Steve Biaggioni, so Bagsy against Ricky Emery. Ricky Emery getting the bye. Going into the top 16, so so well done to Ricky Emery from Team Low Mileage, getting through into the top 16 for the bye, because unfortunately Stephen Biaggioni had engine failure. So unfortunately, it comes down to that. The Stephen, Bagsy was on it yesterday in practice. He was on it in qualifying. I think Bagsy qualified 16th. So he was there and there. There was another battle as well. Obviously, we saw Team Jack Speed driver Paul Smokey Smith go around then winning his battle into the top 16. But teammate Shane Lynch in the twin turbo V8 had a few problems yesterday. He snapped a drive shaft in practice. He put his qualifying runs in his final qualifying, did some damage to his gearbox. The pit crew, Andy from Team Jack Speed, worked through the night actually to fix this problem. Julian Smith, one of our judges, actually helped him. Gave some advice. Julian Smith, obviously Garage D, knows a lot about drift and a lot about mechanics. Built a number of these cars, built a number of the cars that compete in the British Drift Championship, so knows his stuff. Stuck with them and actually helped them fix Shane Lynch's car. Anyway, this morning Shane Lynch gets in his car and it just didn't feel right and things, and unfortunately he had a transmission fault again, and obviously puts him out of the championship. So that sees then the person he was battling was Team It's a Drift Life Christian Lewis. progress into the top 16 with a bye. So Christian Lewis will be very, very thankful for that, actually, because he's one of the UK drivers that is actually competing in the full series of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series. So, you know, Shane Lynch is a bit of a guest driver today. A lot of the UK drivers are guest drivers today who are not competing in the full championship. And then obviously you've got the Europeans that compete in the whole championship. And then you've got various UK drivers. Matt Camplin, he travels around Europe with his team, competing in the championship. You've got Christian Lewis, you've got Ryan Coop. You know, there's a few drivers that, and Bagsy, you know, he competes, and I think Bagsy's doing quite well at the moment as well. You know, it's all these things, but, you know, it's like Bagsy engine failure today puts him, you know, out of the competition today, and he needs those points. And, you know, this is his local track. He's used to this track. He does a lot with this track and things, and, you know, unfortunately, you know, engine failure like that, it can knock him down the table quite drastically, especially at his home track as well, because, you know, they want to get as much points at this track as possible because they know this track, you know. But you know, these Europeans are definitely putting up a battle. So you know, unfortunately for Bagsy, that, you know, he's out of the competition, and he's going to have to try and get that car fixed, and it'll be at round I think this is round 3, so round 4 of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So just waiting for some tyre changes to be done. Obviously we're waiting. We got Dan on the line, Dan Firminger there on the line. One of the UK drivers, qualified 32, so he's, you know, we're doing a top 32. Dan just getting into that top 32 yesterday. Consistent driver, Nankang sponsored Volvo V8. You know, it's not a normal car you see every day. It's actually road legal, this car. I can imagine it being quite a fun drive on the road. Obviously we stick to all the speed limits and we behave ourselves on the roads. And do not try this on normal roads. Obviously, we're on a racetrack. We're at Lydden Hill in Kent, having a bit of fun. If you're here, I hope you're all having a good time. The weather seems to be good. Seems to be holding up. I don't know if it's cold or warm or what in this tower. I'm just in this booth of emotion with these judges all having arguments and stuff. But yeah, if you're watching us on the live feed and you've just joined us, welcome. It's the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. I'm Anthony Cahill. I'm going to be your commentator for the day. We're just getting through the top 32. We've got 2 battles to go. Adam Frank against Dan Firminger. Obviously, Adam Frank with engine problems before. Should have been the first battle, but because it's a friendly sport, we're not the F1. You know, the judges and the marshals and the organisers said, you know, Frank, Adam, if you want to fix your car, we'll bump your battle down to the bottom, and, you know, we'll allow you that time to try and rectify that problem. So he's had an hour and 15 minutes to try and rectify those problems. I've not heard anything back yet that he's actually fixed it, but Danny's on the line now. Because it's Dan's turn to battle, he's on the start line. As soon as he starts that, you know, I think it's a 5 minutes. Yeah, once he arrives at the start line, the 5 minutes does start. So, you know, we can only give him a certain amount of time to rectify these problems. The same scenario is also with the next battle as well, Mark Looney against Nicolette Santo. Now, Mark Looney's experiencing some issues with his Supra as well. We saw if you were in the pits before, if you're actually here watching it live, we saw in the pits that, you know, it was up on axle stands and they were trying to rectify the problem as quick as they could. I've not heard that he's rectified any of those problems. So, you know, it's just one of those things that we can give them so long, but when it's time to battle, as soon as the driver that they're against is on the start line, the 5 minute rule does start. Now we see Dan on the start line, Dan Firminger in the V8 Volvo. Obviously, the 5 minutes has started. If Adam Frank doesn't get to that start line within that 5 minutes, it's an automatic disqualification, and Dan will progress into the top 16. I mean, Adam Frank, we actually want him to fix this car. Dan doesn't want to win by default and go through to the top 16. He wants to battle. He's ready for this. I spoke to him this morning. You know, he's looking forward to it. He can't wait for this battle because Adam Frank was top qualifier yesterday. He was absolutely on the money all day. So, you know, he doesn't want to go through by default. We want Adam Frank to fix his car and go out and battle. We want to see this battle. And, you know, he's come all the way over, you know, from Europe to compete in this, and, you know, it'd be such a shame for him to just go out. He's from Israel, He's the one who drives the BMW E46 with the 2JZ in it, you know. So we don't want him to go out by default, by disqualification, by not getting onto the start line within those 5 minutes. But sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles, and then Dan might progress into the top 16. So the clock is ticking. If you just joined us on the live feed, welcome to the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. Okay, so as I mentioned before, due to Dan being on that line, it was his turn to battle. The 5-minute rule does start. Unfortunately, Adam Frank didn't manage to mend his car in time. I mean, we are absolutely gutted that we did not get to see this battle. Adam Frank coming from Israel to compete today, qualifying first, having a few issues with his car, could not rectify them in time, couldn't make it onto the start line within that 5 minutes, and unfortunately that puts him out of the competition, and Dan Firminger is progressing into the top 16. We've got one battle left for the top 32. That sees Mark Looney and Nicolette Santo. Obviously, Nicolette Santo we saw yesterday pulling a wet qualifying run, putting a fantastic run, adapted to the wet conditions. She was the only one who is actually competing in the Drift Championship who is female, and she was the only one yesterday who did a wet qualifying run. So, it got down to her. She was the final driver to put a qualifying run in, and the heavens just opened. Now, like I mentioned, runs, and I'm not joking, guys. If you didn't see her qualifying runs yesterday, I take my hat off to her. She was absolutely fantastic. She adapted to the conditions extremely well and put in a fantastic run, which put her in as qualifying 17th, which is higher than some of the drivers who qualified doing a dry run. So, that's massive respect goes out to Nicolette Santo. She drives an absolutely fantastic BMW E46. So we can see Mark Looney on the line, which was the person who had the issues with his car. So obviously it's their turn to battle. So Mark Looney is now on the start line, and the 5-minute rule does start. So we've got Mark Looney on the start line, just trying to see where Nicolette Santo is. I don't know about that she had any issues with the car or anything. So just waiting for her to step up onto the line. Okay, so I've just had a confirmation that Nicolette Santo is actually out of the competition. So I don't know whether it was due to engine failure or something, but she didn't manage to get onto the start line. We've just had confirmation that she's not going to be able to make it onto the start line. So that puts Mark Looney, who was the person who had the initial issues, through into the top 16. So that is it now, guys. We've got our top 16 battles, and the first battle is actually Dan Firminger against Mark Looney, two drivers who haven't driven a battle yet, so both of them got a buy into the top 16. So here we go. This is the first battle. Mark Looney as the lead car in the 1,000 brake horsepower Toyota Supra against Dan Firminger in the little Volvo that's powered by a powerful V8. Dan Firminger obviously not fazed by this. Absolutely fantastic run from both drivers there. Saw a very sketchy entrance from both drivers into the first corner. Mark Looney will, we did see him a little bit slow. Dan Firminger coming in very hot into the first corner, having to make that slight correction due to the speeds of Mark Looney, but Mark Looney was sticking to the qualifying runs by the looks of where I'm stood. Obviously, I'm just a commentator. I can't tell, I can't say who goes through and stuff. I can only comment on what I can actually see. You guys at home, you're watching the live feed as well. You get your action replays and things, so, you can also see it as well. But the judges have got the best seat in the house. They're by the window in the tower, in the corner. They can see the track perfectly, so... So that was the first battle for the top 16. We see Dan Firminger against Mark Looney. So whoever wins this actually goes through into the top 8. So we're getting through it now. So we start to see the level of drifting stepping up. As you saw in that battle. Then you've got 1,000 brake horsepower Supra from the Lucas Oil team. Both Nankang tyre sponsored drivers here as well, so both running the same tyres, obviously different sizes and things, and you've got different powers and stuff, but Dan is such a committed driver. We see him in the BDC, when he's the chase car, he is all over that lead car normally. But Mark Looney, he's a bit of a veteran to drifting, he's been in the drift world for a long, long time. Built up a good name for himself, a very confident, very consistent driver. Great team behind him from the Lucas Oil team. And so this should make a good second battle. Obviously, we saw Dan all over the back end of Mark Looney into that first battle. Bit of a sketchy entrance from both drivers, really. Dan was carrying a bit too much speed. Mark Looney wasn't carrying enough speed. Dan making have to make a decision quick to just avoid him, sending him out a bit wide and things. So it just comes to all these things. The drivers have to stick to the qualifying line. That's there's certain criteria. They could be drifting the track and looking fantastic, smoke bellowing from the cars and everything. However, they have to stick to that qualifying line, and that's the most important rule of the day. They obviously have attack speed and attack angle. Mark Looney not carrying enough speed into that first corner and things, So all these things, come into play when it comes to judging. It's not very easy to be a judge and say, yeah, that's a simple decision. He goes through, or he goes through, or she goes through, and so on and things. There's certain criteria that you've got to stick to, and sometimes watching the live feed, we have the action replay, and sometimes that comes in extremely handy. So we've got battle number 2 now. We're into the top 16 of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So Dan is going to now take position of the lead car, and Mark Looney is the chase car. Massive flick from Dan in the V8, just running a wheel off the track, dirt dropping. But Mark Looney sticking with the Volvo, giving it a bit of room, so allowing the transition. Now, Mark Looney should close the gap on this Volvo as they come round the hairpin. A lot of power in that Supra, but then also you've got power to weight ratio. You've got the Volvo with a powerful V8 engine in it and things. But Mark Looney just standing back a little bit and letting Dan just run his lines and things. Normally we see a lot closer drifting from Mark Looney. So that was battle number 2 of the first battles of the top 16. So judges are just having a chat and just bashing their heads together to see who goes through to the top 16. I'll get back to you in a sec. Okay, I can confirm by a massive advantage described from the judges. Dan Firminger is through to the top 8. So Mark Looney, it's home time for him. Obviously, he was experiencing some problems with his car before. Maybe they played a part on why he was making so many errors during his battles. But yeah, I can confirm Dan Firminger in the Volvo is through to the Great 8. Okay, so the next battle that we're actually going to see is Matt Tilliard versus Francesco Conti. Now this is the third battle for the Great 8. Battle number 2 sees Stephen Donnelly and Adam Karenyi, but Adam Karenyi just having a few issues with his car, pulled a 5-minute rule. But like I said, we're going to give him longer than 5 minutes if it needs be, and we'll bump that battle back down to the bottom. Unless it's fixed beforehand, then we'll run the battle. But for now, we're going to run the battle for Matt Tilliard, UK driver, Team GDA, piloting the black Nissan S14, against Francesco Conti, fantastically prepared BMW E92. So straight into battle. Matt Tilliard is the lead car. Into the first corner we go. Conti just trying to close that gap into the first corner. Matt Tilliard bashing the limiter from that Nissan S14. Loads of noise screaming out the exhaust of that BMW from Francesco Conti. Bit straight on the coming down the hill from Conti as they enter into that final corner. So it's a bit of a sketchy run really, considering we're down into the Great 8. These drivers have had a lot of practice today, so we shouldn't be seeing many errors. So now they're back up to the start line. We're going to switch them around. Matt Tilliard is now going to become the chase car. Conti in the BMW is going to become the lead car now. So obviously the lead car has to stick to the qualifying line, and Matt as the chase car then has to mirror everything that Conti does while sticking to the qualifying line. Now if Conti goes off the qualifying line and Matt Tilliard sticks to the qualifying line even though he's the chase car, he will still get the advantage by sticking to that qualifying line. So here we go for the attack speed and the attack angle. Obviously the telemetry gets the answers on what attack speed and attack angle they do into the first corner and during the clipping zones as well. But both of them seem to be putting in quite consistent drives here as they drop down the hill. Matt Tilliard slightly straight, making the same mistake that Conti did in the first battle. So, it's a tough decision when it comes to stuff like this, because obviously the drivers are making minor mistakes now, between each other, which is leveling off the scores and things. So, this is where it gets hard for the judges, to make a decision. They now are referring back to the replays a lot more. Obviously, having this technology comes in very handy, because you can see, you can watch the replays, and you can see where errors are being made and things. Even though they're watching it, they've now got this advantage of watching the action replays, and it's fantastic that they've got this technology here at the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series, and it does come in massively handy, and helps the judges make a decision on who to go through. Right, okay, yeah, like I mentioned a minute ago that, both drivers making slight errors here and there and stuff. It was quite equal in battles number 1 and number 2. In battle number 1, you saw Francesco Conti make a slight error, dropping down the hill into the final corner, and then Matt Tilliard making that exact same mistake in battle number 2. So the judges couldn't decide a winner out of those 2 battles, so they're actually going to run them one more time. So we're going to see him run again. So this time they're going to swap around again. Matt this time is going to be the lead car as he was in the first battle. Francesco Conti tucking in behind Matt, and hopefully we should see some closer drifting now as we're progressing. We limited 40 drivers yesterday in qualifying down to a top 32. We've done the top 32 down, and we've got them down to a 16. So the 16 drivers then are going to become 8. When we've ran those 8, that's the top 4 then, and then those top 4 are trying to fight out for those 3 positions on that podium. And it's so important for the drivers who actually compete in the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So, they need to gain as much points as possible to progress in the championship, whereas some of the drivers who are just, guest drivers from the UK and from Scotland, that are competing today, they're just trying to rock the boat. They're trying to show these Europeans that, the British drivers, are here, to stand our ground. Obviously, a lot of the UK drivers compete in the British Drift Championship, which is held, here at Lydden Hill a couple of times a year and things. So, it's one of those things. The European drivers need to try and gain as much points as possible to progress in the championship. So it's like you've got, let's have a look, Adam Carregni, you got Francesco Conti, Almeghi Monteverti, Nicolo Rosso, Benjamin Boobles, Matt Camplin, the UK driver. It competes in the championship, so he's through to the Great 8. He's through to the top 16. So he needs to get as far as possible. Marcus Muller as well competes in it, and the rest of them are the UK drivers that that are here as just a guest driver that want to do well themselves. Like I mentioned yesterday. The person who actually wins today actually wins a Recaro carbon fibre race seat, which is the value of £2,000. So it's a cracking prize that our sponsors Recaro have put up for today's competition. So a £2,000 carbon fibre race seat from Recaro is up for grabs today. So whoever wins that number 1 position will take that seat away. So next battle we see here is Nicolo Rosso versus Amedeo Monteverti. Now Monteverti's in the E46 BMW, the black and white and red one, and then you've got Nicolo Rosso in the BMW, in the Nissan S14. So both European drivers trying to get as much points as possible in the table. So it's very important for both of these drivers to try and get as far in this competition today as possible. So that was the first battle for their top 16, and we're going to switch them around and they're going to run again. So this is battle number 2 of the top 16 battle. Nicolo Rosso battling against Monteverdi. Monteverdi's the chase car in the BMW E46. Nicolo Rosso in the S14 Nissan. Both of them putting in quite consistent runs now. We're seeing a bit more consistency as we're progressing through the day. Obviously yesterday they had about 4 or 5 hours worth of practice, and this morning, well, obviously then they did the qualifying, then we got our top 32 qualifiers for today. They turned up again this morning. They had about 2 hours practice, and obviously they're progressing now through the top 32, getting better and better throughout the day. So we should start seeing a bit more consistency. Less mistakes are starting to be made. So it should start getting interesting as we progress once we get into the top 8, things start getting interesting. We've ruled out the drivers that are not on their A game today, and the drivers who are progressing, and then we should start seeing a bit more close drifting. So we want to see some door-on-door action. Some of these drivers are left-hand drives, some of the drivers are right-hand drives. So they could potentially be shaking hands if they're that close today. It's just exciting to see these Europeans come over and try and put on a show in front of us UK drifters. It's great to see the mix and everything. So, the UK does welcome the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series, because obviously we all support the sport of drifting, and we want it to progress as much as possible. So, it's absolutely fantastic that this European Series actually wants to come to the UK and use Lydden Hill, where we're at the moment in Kent. As one of their rounds, so big welcome to the Monster Energy King of Europe competition. Right, so there's a few 5-minute rules being pulled, some tyres being changed and things like that. So we're going to revert now back to the one more time between Matt Tilliard and Francesco Conti. So we saw them battle before. The judges couldn't make a decision between both drivers. Obviously, both drivers made minimal mistakes, but it was very similar consistency from both drivers. So we're going to see them run one more time. Monteverdi and Rosso pulling 5-minute rules to change tyres, which then obviously bumps this one more time up now. So we'll see Matt Tilliard and Francesco Conti run there one more time. Now, Matt Tilliard from Team GDA running a Nissan S14, the black one that you should see stepping up onto the line there. And he's going to be running against the European contender, Francesco Conti, in the BMW E92. So, two well-prepared cars, two very experienced drifters. So we should see some good battles here. So Matt Tilliard, I think, will become the lead car. He's set off on the right-hand side, yeah. So he is now the lead car. Francesco Conti is the chase car. Francesco Conti with a big issue there. Don't know what's happened with his car, but Matt Tilliard's putting in a drift. He's powering it round round the hairpin. Francesco Conti has obviously got major issues with his BMW. And like I said, they've come all this way and they don't want stuff like this to happen. He was on the money yesterday, Francesco Conti. He was putting in some really good runs. And it just comes down to this. There he goes. He's exiting the track. Obviously, that's game over for Francesco Conti, which obviously, it's pretty simple. We'll see Matt Tilliard go through into the Grade 8. Unfortunately for Francesco Conti, it's home time for him. He's obviously got a car to fix now as well. So, commiserations to Francesco Conti, and well done to Matt Tilliard for progressing into the top 8.
drift, sleep drift.
It's like an addiction. For me, this is it. There's nothing else.
When I take my racing suit, when I put my helmet and close the door to my car, I'm a driver, I'm a racer. I'm not a woman, I'm not a man, so everybody's equal.
The sensation is out of the world.
It's all the time, from the morning to the night. It's in the mind. Dream about drift, wake up about drift, and that's our life.
There is something that changes in your mind. You lose the control and you have the control of the car in the same time.
And it can be quite scary at times because I don't really know how I'm controlling myself, but something happens and I don't really come back to me until I've gone across the finish line.
Welcome to Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series.
Drifting is like a big family. Right now is my new family.
Get the crowd addicted to the sport.
So obviously, as we're progressing through the top 32, it's getting a bit harder for the judges to make decisions on these drivers. So we're getting a lot of conferring going on. I've just had to break a fight up between these two judges because they're struggling to get their heads together, watching replays and things. They're not really fighting; it's just a term. But you know, it's getting much harder to make decisions on these drivers as they're progressing through from the top 32. You know, they're progressing through, and the driving standards is just getting up and up and up. So this battle, we're reversing it now. You've got Marcus Muller in the BMW E46 as a lead car. You've got Christian Lewis in the Nissan Skyline R33 from Team It's a Drift Life. Christian Lewis is a UK driver competing in the British Drift Championship, but he also goes and competes in the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series as well. So two very capable drivers. Both drivers are definitely worth to be in with the money today as well. You know, very consistent. Obviously, as you saw then, if you're watching live from the track, you know, thank you for coming down and supporting us today, the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. But if you're watching us on the live feed as well, you know, you've got a good seat as well, because obviously you get the action replays, which is coming in very handy for the judges, because obviously now the driving standards is getting better and better. The judges are then walking across over to the screen, watching the instant replays, because both drivers are now starting to make minimal errors, and you know, it's just one of those things. So obviously that was battle number 2 for Marcus Muller and Christian Lewis. The judges are trying to confer, just watching a few replays and things. Obviously, like I mentioned, minimal errors are starting to be made, making the decision a lot harder for these judges. So I'm just waiting for a decision from the judges to see who's going through to the top 8. Okay, so the judges have made a decision, and I can confirm that Team It's a Drift Life, Christian Lewis, is through to the Great 8. Yeah, so we saw Christian Lewis progress into the Great 8. From there, we have a couple of battles left. We see Ricky Emery from Team Low Mileage competing against Paul Smokey Smith from Team Jap Speed. And then we've got one more battle as well, Stephen Donnelly against Adam Karenyi. So, you know, we've got 2 positions left for the top 8. At the moment, through into the top 8, we've got Dan Firminger in the V8 Volvo. We've got Matt Tilliard in the Nissan S14, Monteverdi in the 46, Bulbey in the BMW E36, Mike Marshall from Team M&M in the BMW E36, and Christian Lewis in the Nissan Skyline It's a Drift Life, Team It's a Drift Life. So, you know, we're getting through it quite quicker than I thought we would be doing. You know, this we've had a few issues with the cars, a few 5-minute rules and things like that, but we seem to be plodding on nicely. So yeah, if you just bear with us, we're just waiting for the next battle to start. In fact, here it goes. It's we see Ricky Emery from Team Low Mileage against Paul Smokey Smith from Team Japspeed. I mentioned yesterday Team Japspeed's Paul Smokey Smith is called Paul Smokey Smith for that simple reason. It's almost as if he flicks a switch and all of a sudden tyre smoke from those Maxxis tyres, the MAZ1 drift tyre, which was developed solely for drifting, works fantastic for this team. Teammates of Drift Life as well run the same tyres, you know, and it's fantastic tyres. But we got Ricky Emery there from Team Low Mileage in his Toyota Sora. Obviously had an issue in it coming into the first corner, rubbing the grass a little bit, knocking his bumper off, but he's just stopped still there. So he's obviously got a massive error with that car. Now he can have the position now to pull a 5-minute rule. Whether he can rectify that problem, I don't know. He might just gracefully bow out because maybe it's something that's irreparable within 5 minutes, giving Paul Smith a bye into the next round. But Paul Smith put in a fantastic run there in the first battle. Obviously, it gives him a 10-0 advantage going into the next battle. That's if it does actually run. So we'll just wait to see what's happening with Ricky Emery's Team Low Mileage Sora. And then we'll see what happens. So obviously it's not something that can actually be towed out of the way, so it looks like it's got to be put on the flatbed to be taken away. I can see something under the car. I don't know whether it's something to do with maybe his wheel or something like that. I'm trying to look under it, but obviously I can't tell from here what the problem is. But whether it's something that's fixable, we don't know yet. So obviously we've just got to wait and find out. So if you've just joined us on the live feed, big warm welcome to the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series down at Lydden Hill in Kent, UK. You're currently watching Ricky Emery from Team Low Mileage, just his Sora being loaded onto a flatbed. We saw him go against Paul Smokey Smith from Team Japspeed. Paul Smith putting in a fantastic run. And Ricky Emery rubbing the dirt a little bit, knocking his rear bumper off, but he's obviously done a little bit more damage than he actually thought. Came to a stop, and now he needs recovery. So obviously driving stops until the car is recovered, and then the track's safe to carry on. So if you've just joined us, that's what you're watching. Nothing drastic has actually happened for Ricky Emery from Team Low Mileage. He's just had a bit of an issue with his car, and whether it can be fixed within a 5-minute rule, I don't know. We will find out off the marshals once they radio up to the tower, and then we'll see if we can progress. But that was that's Ricky Emery and Paul Smith's battle number 1 that we've just seen. We're into the top 16, but we've only got one battle left in the top 16. That would be Adam Karenyi and Stephen Donnelly, two both well-committed drivers, very consistent. Adam Karenyi competes in the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series. He competes in a whole series, whereas Stephen Donnelly, he's come all the way from Scotland, you know, so he's travelled quite a long distance. But he's just a guest driver for this weekend as well. He's another one of the drivers that competes in the British Drift Championship. But he's a guest driver today, and you know, he's definitely showing his presence by putting in some fantastic runs. He qualified 25th out of 32, so you know, putting in some decent, consistent runs. He's going to be going against Adam Karenyi, so yeah, should be some interesting battles as the day progresses. If you've just joined us, we are in the top 16. One battle left in the top 16, and we've got through into the top 8 at the moment. Sees UK driver Dan Firminger, UK driver Matt Tilliard, European driver Monteverti, European driver Bourbe, UK driver Mike Marshall, UK and European driver Christian Lewis, and then we've obviously got whoever goes through between Ricky Emery and Paul Smith. Obviously, we saw the first battle then, Ricky Emery experiencing some problems with his car. And then we've got the final battle between Stephen Donnelly and Adam Karenyi for that final spot into the Grade 8. So we've limited 40 drivers yesterday in qualifying down to a top 32. We started at 12 o'clock with the top 32, limited them down to a top 16, and now we're limiting these 16 now down into a top 8. So, you know, the day's just getting better and better as we progress through the day. The drivers are getting more and more confident. We're seeing less errors being made and things, you know, so it's getting very interesting as we're progressing through. Obviously, we've got the drivers from the championship who are trying to get as high as possible to gain as much points as possible. And then at the other end of the scale, we've got the UK guest drivers who, you know, are just here for, you know, a crack. And, you know, the points don't really mean much to them. But what they're really after is that is the Recaro sponsors. They've put up a £2,000 carbon fibre race seat, which will go to the person who takes that number 1 on the podium. So, you know, there's still a lot to play for, even if they're not actually bothered about the championship points. But obviously, the drivers who compete in the championship are so, you know, they need them points. So this is the top 16 battle for Stephen Donnelly versus Adam Karenyi. Adam Karenyi was a higher qualifier than Steve Donnelly, so he is the lead car. Adam Karenyi in the the BMW E46, and then you've got Stephen Donnelly from Scotland in the Toyota Sora. So, you know, we saw in the first battle there, Adam Karenyi just opening that gap a little bit. The judges have reverted back to the action replay very fast just to see how that gap was created. And then we can get them back to the start line, we can switch them around, and they can do it again. So, you know, this is the opportunity now to get into the last 8 drivers. Like I said, we've limited 40 drivers down to 32, 32 down to 16, and now we're limiting those 16 into the top 8. So the best 8 drivers of the weekend we will have as battling it out for those 3 all-important spots on that podium. So the judges know they've given a score for that, and they're going to run the second battle now. So they're going to switch around. So Steve Donnelly from Scotland, BDC driver, he's going to be the lead car. Adam Karenyi, obviously the European contender, is going to be the chase car. The lead car has to stick to the qualifying line, which they had to do in qualifying yesterday, and then the chase car obviously has to stick with the lead car, running that same qualifying line as well. Coming down the hill where they are now, they have to keep a consistent drift all the way around the final corner. So from the end of turn 1 to the beginning of turn 3, they need to be constantly drifting. They didn't want to see any straightening. They didn't want to see any mangying. So they've got to stick to this certain criteria right throughout the day. So the judges are just over at the screen, watching the action replay, and then hopefully we can get a decision to see who goes through into the Grade 8. We're also trying to find out what happened to Ricky Emery as well from Team Low Mileage, whether his car is fixable or not. Obviously, 5 minutes to fix it. It was one of the last battles as well, unfortunately. So, you know, we can't even give him any more time than that to fix his car. So basically, Ricky Emery has got 5 minutes to fix his car. If he can't, that obviously puts Paul Smith through. Paul Smith already has a 10-0 advantage from the battle 1. because they did do one run. Ricky Emery experienced some problems with his car, stopped, giving a 10-0 to Paul Smith. So, there's a big advantage there for Paul Smith. So we're just waiting to find out what's going on with Ricky Emery's team low mileage Sora. And then we're just waiting for a decision to find out who goes through between Stephen Donnelly and Adam Karenyi. Okay, so I can confirm out of that battle between Stephen Donnelly and Adam Karenyi, I can confirm progressing into the top 8 is Adam Karenyi. So screaming onto the track then, I don't know if you saw it in the live feed then, Ricky Emery's just come screaming onto the track to trying to get back to that start line in time for that 5 minutes. So Ricky Emery, obviously from Team Low Mileages, has managed to rectify that problem. And he's made his way over to the start line. And then we just need Paul Smith from Team Jatsby to get onto the start line to run the second battle to see who the final driver is to get into the top 8. So obviously Ricky Emery, he's got a 10-0 disadvantage from the error that he had in the first battle. So Paul Smith's got a huge advantage. Everything to play for Ricky. Unfortunately, he gets this far and experiences a problem like that in a battle. You don't really want to be doing that. So just waiting for Paul Smith to get onto the start line, and we're going to run the final battle to see who that driver is, who will be joining Dan Firminger, Adam Karenyi, Matt Tilliard, Monteverti, Boubet, Mike Marshall and Christian Lewis in the Great 8. So obviously 7 drivers are mentioned there, are through into the Great 8. And we've got one spot left, and that could be either Ricky Emery or Paul Smith. Now, we saw the battle number 1. Paul Smith has a 10-0 advantage over Ricky Emery. So Ricky Emery's got everything to play for. Okay, so just had confirmation. We saw Ricky Emery's car brake. We saw him come out onto the track. By the time he got to the start line, it was 7 minutes. Now, we have a ruling that you only get 5 minutes. If you're not back on that start line within those 5 minutes, it's an automatic disqualification. Unfortunately for Ricky Emery, it took him 7 minutes. It wasn't within the 5-minute rule, and unfortunately, rules are rules, which we've had to play with today as well. You know, we are running out of time. We need to get through the Grade 8 into the top 4, into the finals, and unfortunately, he didn't manage to fix his car in time. And you know, it's sad times for Ricky Emery from Team Low Mileage, because you know, he's been driving exceptionally well all day, but luckily for Paul Smith, he had a 10-0 advantage anyway, you know, so we could see where that was kind of going anyway. If Paul Smith just put in a nice consistent run in the second battle, he would have progressed through anyway. So a big well done to Paul Smith for taking that final spot in the Grade 8 for the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. Okay, we are now into the Grade 8. First battle that we see here is Matt Hilliard from Team GDA against European driver Monteverdi. Monteverdi piloting the BMW E46, the black, red and white. The black, red and white one. If you're watching the live feed, Matt Hilliard is the lead car. Monteverdi is the chase car. So obviously straight into battle number 1 that was. We saw a lot of tyre smoke from both drivers there. Each battle now, the judges seem to be moving over to the screen to watch action replays and stuff like that, because like I keep mentioning, drivers are starting to make minimal errors. You know, it's getting very close. The drifting is just getting better and better right throughout the day. We've got nice dry conditions. It's quite warm outside, bit of blue sky, bit of clouds and stuff, but it seems to be holding off. Yesterday we saw dry conditions, then wet conditions, and so on and so forth during qualifying. All dry qualifying apart from the very last battle where poor Nicolette, she had to do her qualifying run in a wet run. Still qualified though, 17th, which is actually higher than some of the drivers who actually qualified doing a dry run. So, you know, hats off to her. But yeah, we are down to the Grade 8. The battles that we're going to be seeing is Dan Firminger against Adam Karenyi, Matt Tilliard against Monteverdi, which we've just seen battle number 1. We're just waiting for them to start off from the start line, switching around. Then we got Boubet in the E36 BMW against Mike Marshall in the E36 BMW Team M&M. And then we've got two UK drivers, Christian Lewis and Paul Smith. Now, with that battle, it's important for Christian Lewis, really, because he's competing in the full championship of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So the points mean a lot to him. Again, for Paul Smith, though, he's playing for that Recaro seat. It's an expensive seat. It's a good seat to have. So it's just one of those things. It's everything to play for. And this is battle number 2 of the Great 8. You see Monteverti in the E46 BMW, Matt Tilliard in the black Nissan S14. Monteverti just turning on the smoke tap as he screams it round that final corner, but Matt Tilliard seems to be on the money all over that BMW through that final corner. Yeah, so as you can see, if you're watching the live feed, the drivers do have to stick to the qualifying line. And also, from the end of turn 2, coming out of turn 2 into turn 3, they have a constant drift all the way around to connect turns 2 and 3. By the looks of the action replay there, Monteverti did straighten slightly. Matt Tilliard was the chase car and kept the drift out. It was a shallow angle, but he kept the drift out. Monteverti didn't. So these all come into play when it's little things like this. It puts people through and knocks people out. So I'm just waiting for a decision off the judges. We'll see who goes through into the top 4. Okay, so because of a massive advantage on the first run, in that first battle and going through to the top 4 is Matt Tilliard. So the next battle we're going to see is the UK driver, the trusty V8 Volvo of Dan Firminger against DOTS-sponsored E46 Adam Karenyi. Now, both drivers have been on the money today. And yesterday during qualifying. Obviously, we saw Dan qualify last, so he took that final 30-second position in the qualifying, but seems to be on the money today during practice. He pilots that Volvo very, very well. He's just upped his game. As soon as he dropped that V8 engine into that Volvo, it's just upped his game. That's all he needed. That was just that little push that he needed to make that car perfect for him. He just needed that little bit more power. So power to weight ratio, he's up there with the big boys. That we've got an XGT BMW E46 here, and that's running close to 1100 brake horsepower. So that's the money that goes into these cars. You've got the BMW the M6. That's pushing close to 700 brake horsepower. So there's big power in there, and then you've got a V8 powered Volvo that's sticking up with with this massive power. So it's fantastic to see. Dan obviously is one of the contenders for the British Drift Championship, which is one of the biggest championships in Europe. And then he's just coming to rock the boat and having a bit of fun today with the Europeans who compete in the whole of the championship for the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So obviously it's important for Adam Karenyi to get the points. But Dan really wants to do well. He's such a committed driver. But let's see what happens. That was battle number 1. Obviously, we saw Matt Tilliard go into the top 4. There's 3 positions left. And let's see what happens in battle number 2. Massive early entry from Dan Firminger. But it just sent him out slightly wide to scrub off a bit of speed. But seems to be sending it out wide. Perfect on the qualifying line from both drivers there. I think it's going to come down to minimal mistakes, this, as both drivers exit around the final corner. Loads of smoke coming from the BMW E46 of Adam Karenyi. So, a good run from both drivers. So they're now looking for these little mistakes. They keep coming over to the screen to watch the action replay, just to find those minimal mistakes. So it's getting really close now. Obviously, we limited yesterday 40 drivers down to a top 32, which started at 12 o'clock today. We've limited 32 drivers down to a top 16, and then we've limited 16 drivers now down to 8. And these 4 battles of 8 drivers, we only see 4 progress through. And then once we've done that, we're going to run semi-finals. Now, when we run the semi-finals, when we've got 4 drivers left, basically what happens is they compete against each other. The 2 winners will go through into the final, but the 2 losers, it's not game over yet because we still have to find a position for number 3 on that podium. So we run a battle for 3rd and 4th. So the 2 winners of the top 4 go through to the final. The 2 losers go into another battle to try and get that last position on the podium. So we've got 8 drivers left. Well, in fact, we've got 6 drivers now. We've seen Matt Tilliard go through into the top 4. We're currently just waiting for a decision on Dan Firminger and Adam Karenyi. Okay, so I can confirm out of that last battle, Adam Karenyi actually goes through and takes a position in that top 4. So this battle sees 2 very powerful E36 BMWs. We've got Buble against Mike Marshall from Team M&M. 2 fantastic, well-prepared cars this now. This could make a very long battle because obviously drivers aren't making a lot of mistakes now. We've got Mike Marshall from Team M&M, ex-BDC champion from Super Pro class. Built this car a couple of years ago. Practices a lot at this local track of his. And then you've got Boobles against Mike Marshall, and you know it's it's just getting really good. Obviously, the points are so important to Booble. So you know it's Mike Marshall's just there for a bit of fun by the looks of it. He's brought the crowd, Team M&M, with him, who are all here at the track. I bet he's also got some supporters watching on the live feed as well. So if you're watching us on the live feed, welcome. We're down to the Great 8 of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series. If you're here at the track, thank you for your support. Obviously, we're all a lover of drifting. The more support, the more the sport progresses. So you know, it's thank you very much for coming down today and watching it actually live. If you can't make it down, we appreciate you watching the live feed. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope I'm informative for you. Obviously, some of these drivers are new to me. I've tried to learn them as much as possible. But, you know, sometimes I get the names wrong in cars and things like that. But, it's hard work doing this. But hopefully I'm very informative and you're enjoying it today for the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So we see 2 drivers going through to the top 4. We see Adam Karenyi. He's going to be going against Matt Tilliard. And then we've got 2 battles left. We saw battle number 1 there for Booble and Mike Marshall. And then we're going to see Christian Lewis against Paul Smith. Okay, so basically the judges have just been conferring, watching the telemetry, referring back to the replays to try and put a score down for that first battle. They've obviously now come to a decision of what score that first battle is, and it's going to come down to this last battle now. We see Mike Marshall from Team M&M in the BMW Estate as the lead car. Bulbey in the E36 BMW in the chase position. So, you know, both drivers putting on fantastic runs. Like I mentioned before, they've got to stick to the qualifying line. There's certain criteria they've got to stick to. And there we see the, I don't know if you can see it on the live feed, but the wind picked up and the archway that they go through just started dropping and it bounced down, and as it bounced back up again, the two cars went underneath it. So, yeah, that could have been a bit of an issue. But anyway, yeah, the drivers have got to stick to the qualifying line. Obviously, the judges are watching very, very carefully now, because the positions now coming in is very important to these drivers. So, you know, everyone's going to be they're going to be giving everything now to try and get through for those three all-important positions on that podium. Obviously, the European drivers who compete in the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series are going to want the points. But you know, the UK drivers that are here as guest drivers, you know, want a name for themselves. They want to, you know, they want to get up there as much as possible just to make a name for themselves and things. So it's, you know, there's still everything to play for. You know, we've got two drivers already into the top four. We've just run the battle for Booble and Mike Marshall, but the judges again are, you know, conferring that they seem to be struggling to make a decision, to be fair, when it comes to this. Obviously, we've got the human judges here. And also we've got the telemetry judge as well. So the telemetry actually tells you what speed and angle they are during clipping zones, you know. So the telemetry, basically what they've done is they've taken a mapping, they've taken like a scan, so to speak, of the track that they drift. And they have these certain zones, and they have to be at a certain speed, attack and attack angle they call it. And you know, putting together gives them a score. It's such an advanced system that they've got. We've never seen it before in the UK, but obviously they have to revert back to the telemetry as well, because obviously one driver might be sticking to the qualifying line and have more angle and more speed, and you know, the other driver might not have as much angle and speed as the other one. So the telemetry will actually tell the judges that as well and come up with a score. So you know, it's getting quite close now as the drivers are making less mistakes, so making it a little bit harder to make a decision. Just a slight delay at the moment on the track. Obviously, the big inflatable archway. If you're here at the track, you know what's going on, but the live feed's not actually pointing the cameras over there. Basically, the big archway that's the exit of the track where they have to shut off and there's no drifting, basically blew over. The wind's picking up a little bit. The anchors gave way and it blew over. So they're just packing that up. The marshals are on the track just packing that up. So there's a bit of a delay. And also the judges still haven't come to a decision yet on the winner between Booble and Mike Marshall. So if you're watching us on the live feed, you're watching the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series, European Drift Series that travels all around Europe, and this is round 3, held in the UK at Lydden Hill in Kent. Just while I've got a bit of time, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Monster Energy. We've got Federal Tyres, Motul, KW, Dots Wheels, Recaro, Remus, and My Way Drift School. So, you know, without these sponsors who support this drifting, you know, these drift events would not be able to run. You know, there's so much support now coming in from big companies like these who are supporting this, you know, the actual drift community and trying to help progress the sport. So, you know, a big thanks to our sponsors of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. Right, so the judges have made a decision on the battle between Booble and Mike Marshall, and I can confirm that they're going to run them one more time. Obviously, both drivers making minimal mistakes, and the judges couldn't make a unanimous decision on who to put through to the top 4, so they're going to run them one more time. So we're just fixing the inflatable archway, the multiple inflatable archway, and then as soon as that's done, we are going to run that battle. So we've probably got, about a 5-minute delay now until we can get that archway back up and anchored down. Obviously the wind's picking up, so they've got to anchor it down good and proper to make sure it's done right. And then as soon as that's done, then we're going to run the one more time for Booble and Mike Marshall. Then once we've done that, we've got one more battle, one more position left for the top 4. That leaves Christian Lewis and Paul Smith. So about 5-minute delay now, just while we can fix that archway. The marshals are frantically working to try and get it back up, and as soon as that's done, we're going to run the one more time between Booble and Mike Marshall. Okay, so the Federal Archway is now up, and the track is live. So if you've just joined us on the live feed, welcome to the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. We've limited 32 drivers down to 16, and now and then 16 down to 8, and now we're limiting it down to 4. We already see Adam Karenyi and Matt Tilliard into the final 4, and we're now about to watch it one more time between Bubel and Mike Marshall. We saw them battle it out a minute ago, and the judges couldn't find a true winner in that battle, so they're going to run him again. They want to see him run again, so maybe during this battle, a driver will make an error big enough to stand out, and the judges can make a decision to see which one goes through to the top 4. So here we go. This is the one more time battle number 1. Bulbey is the lead car in the E36. A big aggressive entry from Mike Marshall. Very close to Bulbey as they come around the first corner. You can hear the V8 from Bulbey in his E36, powering it through. Massive straight there as he comes out of turn 2. But Mike Marshall seemed to link turn 2 and 3. So coming out of the exit for turn 2, they've got to keep a constant drift. And by the looks of it, Bulbey did straighten slightly coming out of turn 2, making a slight error. That's the only error I saw. But obviously, I'm not in the best of positions here. I've got the judges in front of me. They've got the best seat in the house. They're watching replays all the time. They're looking at telemetry. You have to take all this into account now. When we're through into the battles, because. It's just one of those things. You've got to look at these things to see who goes through. So that was the first battle of the one more time between Bulbey in the E36 Coupe BMW, and he's going against Team M&M driver Mike Marshall in the BMW E36 Estate. So, two very similar cars, but two very different engines. Two different driving styles as well. Obviously, we saw Mike Marshall's very aggressive flick into the first corner, putting him in a good position as a chase car on Bulbey. So he was mirroring through turn 1. And then obviously the drivers have made minimal mistakes as well. So the judges have got to make a decision. One more time. We're going to switch them round and we're going to run them again, only this time they're switching around, and Mike Marshall will be the lead car. Team M&M E36 BMW Estate. You've got Bulbey in the BMW E36 Coupe. So, like I said, two very similar cars, two totally different engines, two totally different driving styles. So, it's going to come down to this last battle, I reckon. It's very, very close. Now we're getting into the top 4. The driving standards is just stepping up and up and up as they're progressing through the day, and it's just getting better and better and better. So it's making it harder for the judges to actually make a decision on which driver is actually going to progress. So we're looking at telemetry, we're looking at replays and things, and it's those are making it a lot easier to make a decision. However, it just takes time to revert back to these things, this info and the replays and stuff. But I think it's going to come down to this final battle. Let's see the entry from Mike Marshall, because he's been quite aggressive into the first corner. A little bit more angle. Obviously, the judges want to see attack speed and attack angle. And that is exactly what Mike Marshall did in that coming into that first corner. Bulbey just putting his BMW on the back end of that corner We saw Mike Marshall link turns 2 and 3, and we saw Bull Bay straighten coming down the hill. There was a slight straight from Bull Bay, but Mike Marshall kept that drift all the way from turn 2 and turn 3, which is exactly the criteria that the judges set before this round actually started in briefing yesterday. So, you know, it's very, very close. These decisions are so hard to make when it gets the driving standard, when it gets this good. You know, so we'll just have to wait and see. You'll have to give me a few minutes just to find out what the judges say about it and who they're going to put through. Okay, so the judges have now made a decision. We saw a one more time from Bull Bay and Mike Marshall. It's so close, this, guys. You're obviously watching it live. You're watching it on the live feed and everything. And I can confirm, going through into the top 4 is Team M&M driver Mike Marshall. So that leaves one spot left in the final 4. 2 UK drivers, Christian Lewis and Paul Smith. Paul Smith obviously competes. He's a British drift champion from Team Jackspeed. And then you've also got Christian Lewis, but he also competes in the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series throughout the whole event, you know, throughout the whole series. So it's important for him to get some points as well. So into the first corner, Paul Smokey Smith with loads more angle than Christian Lewis into that first corner. That's the reason we call Paul Smokey Smith that same name, because it's just like turning a tap of smoke That S15 is powered by a Toyota 1JZ engine with a huge turbo on it. Good mapping on it and everything, and then you've got Christian Lewis in the Nissan Skyline R33, powered by the original engine, the RB25. Loads of power in it as well. So two very capable cars, two very capable drivers as well. So it's looking pretty good for these two drivers. Obviously, we saw Paul Smith with a good attack speed and a good attack angle coming into the first corner. The judges have this thing that they want to see. It's called attack angle and attack speed into the first corner. So they want to see as much speed and as much as aggression and as much angle as possible into that first corner. And that is exactly what the telemetry does. It tells us what the angle and speed is, upon in these zones. So that's where it comes in extremely handy. So that was the first battle. We've got one more battle left. Obviously, who goes through now will be competing against Mike Marshall in the top four. So we're going to see Adam Karenyi go against Matt Tilliard, and we're going to see Mike Marshall go against the winner of this one. So Christian Lewis, lead car, Paul Smith from Team Jap Speed as the chase car. So into the first corner, some nice angle from both drivers. Paul Smith is on the rear quarter of the Skyline going up the hill, putting the power down, just trying to close that gap, nudging Christian Lewis round the corner. Both of them keeping a good line round that bend, but Paul Smith with so much more angle than Christian Lewis going round that final corner. I think it's quite a simple decision from where I'm stood, but I'll just revert back to the judges for a decision. Yeah, it was just from a huge advantage of more angle from Paul Smith. We see Paul Smith progress through into the top four, taking that final fourth position in the top four. Unfortunately, knocking Christian Lewis out. He will get some points for getting as far as the top 8. So points are very important for Christian Lewis, obviously, because he's competing in the full series of the Monster Energy King of Europe. So that's our final 4 drivers. Adam Karenyi against Matt Tilliard. Adam Karenyi in the E46 BMW. He's going to be going against Matt Tilliard from Team GDA in the black Nissan S14. And then we're going to see 2 UK drivers, Mike Marshall and Paul Smith. Actually, those 2 drivers are champions of the Super Pro of the British Drift Championship. So, 2 very well capable drivers going against each other in the top 4. So, we've got 3 UK drivers. We've got Adam Karenyi, who's been piloting the BMW E46. Absolutely fantastic all day. So it's just... We'll just have to wait and see. So we've got 2 battles left. Adam Karenyi versus Matt Tilliard, and we've got Mike Marshall versus Paul Smith. So obviously the winner of this battle will go through into the final. And obviously the winner of Mike Marshall and Paul Smith will go into the final as well. The two drivers who lose still have to go in for a battle for 3rd and 4th. So we are now into the semi-finals. I think we're ready to go. The judges have given the go-ahead, and off they go. So let's see who takes the lead car. No, it's the car on the right. So, yeah, Matt Tilliard takes the lead car straight into battle number 1. Adam Karenyi is the chase car in the E46. Loads of angle from both drivers as they enter the first corner. Adam Karenyi seems to be having to back off a little bit as he was trying to put the power down. Looks like he's got a bit more power than Matt Tilliard, but it's not all about power. You've got to keep control of the drift. And was that an issue that Matt Tilliard made an error, so Adam Karenyi had to back off, or was Adam Karenyi just too hot on his tail and had to back off? So it's these things where now we have to revert back to the action replays and actually look at this, because obviously this is now this is this is to whoever wins is going into the final. You know, we're nearly there. We've limited 40 drivers yesterday down to 32. We've run 32, which we started at 12 o'clock today, and we've limited 32 down to 16, 16 down to 8, 8 down to 4, and now these are the last of the battles. So, you know, we've got 4 of the top drivers of the day. These are the best 4 drivers who've been performing well all day. Adam Karenyi, Matt Tilliard, Mike Marshall and Paul Smith. It's anyone's game, this, guys. So if you're watching on the live feed, thank you very much for watching us. If you're here at live at the track, again, thank you so much for your support. Everybody appreciates your support for drifting. We all want the sport to progress more and more. So, you know, it's great to see that another championship of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series, you know, coming to the UK and hosting an event in the UK for us to see what the standard is of these European drivers. And it's good to see some of our UK drivers competing in the full series as well. So we've got battle number 2. Matt Tilliard making a big error there into the first corner, coming in very, very aggressive and fast, having to back off with a load of angle, making a big error. Adam Karenyi seems to be sticking on the money as his bumper flies off coming into the final corner. Fantastic run there from Adam Karenyi. Really good run. Matt Tilliard making a few mistakes. You know, but both drivers, made mistakes as well. Adam making mistakes in the first run and things. So I'll just wait to see if the judges have made a decision as they make their way back to the start line. Okay, it's getting interesting here now, guys. It was a straightaway decision. There was mistakes made in the first run from Adam Karenyi. There was also mistakes by Matt in the second run. What they want to see is them run again. So they're going to run them one more time. Obviously, it's so important now that each driver is making minimal decisions, and they're both similar mistakes as well. So we're going to run them one more time. We saw them go up onto the start line, and by the looks of it, they're going to make their way around to maybe change some tyres or something. They were on the start line, so we'll just wait for them to head back over there, and we'll find out what's going on. Yeah, so by the looks of it, both drivers have pulled her one more time. Obviously, we're getting through now to the top 4. Tyres are starting to get a bit worn and things, so obviously both drivers need to change some tyres, get some fresh rubber on those wheels because they need to be on their A game. The cars need to be at top condition now in this final 4 because obviously whoever wins is going through to the Grade 8. Into the final, Getting a bit mixed up there, into the final. So, yeah, we've limited all these drivers now down to 4. And it just leaves these now to find out who gets this first, second and third position on the podium. And again, I keep mentioning it, whoever takes the first position will be walking away with a Recaro, carbon fibre Recaro race seat worth up to £2,000. So, you know, a great prize to be won. So we thank Recaro, one of our sponsors, for putting that up today. And we'll see who will be taking that away. So here we go. This is the first of one more time. Adam Karenyi versus Matt Tilliard. Matt Tilliard is the lead car. Adam Karenyi is the chase car. Nice angle from both drivers. A little bit wider from Adam Karenyi there on the line, as Matt Tilliard seems to be sticking to the qualifying line in the first corner. Bit of a shallower angle then again from Adam Karenyi, just trying to close the gap as much as possible, as Matt Tilliard was powering through the second corner, but Adam Karenyi was all over Matt Tilliard in that final corner. So it's a bit up and down at the moment in these battles, you know. In the first corner, one driver's making a slight error, and then in another corner, the other driver's making a slight error, evening it out. So the drivers are watching these replays very closely, looking for that, you know, that slight error from either one of the drivers, and also they're looking at the telemetry as well, looking for the attack speed, the attack angle, because obviously that always comes into play. They used it yesterday in qualifying. It seems to be working absolutely fantastic. It's some great technology that they're running in the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. So that's the first battle of the one more time. We're going to switch it round now, and I think it's going to come down to this battle now, because that was extremely close. We had errors made from both drivers. It seemed to be quite even in my opinion. I think the judges are in agreement with me, so I'll probably come down to this final battle. So we're going to switch it around. Adam Karenyi in the lead car in the BMW E46 against Matt Tilliard in the Team GDA Nissan S14. So Matt Tilliard just trying to keep that gap as close as possible onto that BMW of Adam Karenyi's. Around the second corner, both drivers seem to be running the same angle, but Adam Karenyi is pulling away from Matt Tilliard. Fantastic run from both drivers again. You know, the standard is very similar now as we're getting through into the final four. So you know, it's just the minimalist of errors that the judges are looking for. Okay, so going through into the final, the first person to take the spot in the final for the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series is Adam Karenyi in the BMW E46. He's taken the first position in the final, but it's not game over yet for Matt Tilliard. He's still got to battle for that third and fourth position, so there's still an opportunity for him to get onto that podium. Unfortunately, it's not the first and second positions, but he's still got the opportunity to battle it out again with the loser between Mike Marshall and Paul Smith, because the loser between there will go against Matt Tilliard for that third position on the podium. We're going to see on the start line now, this is just going to be an absolutely fantastic battle. Both drivers compete in the British Drift Championship here in the UK, and Mike Marshall is a British Drift champion in Super Pro, and so is Paul Smith. So we see two champions here, who, you know, great drivers, absolutely fantastic builds in these cars. So this is going to be a fantastic battle. I know I sometimes say this when I commentate. I would not want to be a judge at a time like this, because these two drivers have driven together a lot and they know each other's driving styles, so it's going to be extremely close. So we're going to see Mike Marshall from Team M&M driving the 2JZ powered BMW E36 Estate against Paul Smith in the 1JZ powered Nissan S15 from Team Japspeed. So you know, it's going to be a very, very close battle. It's similar powers, and two very, very high-class drivers, so it should make a very good battle list. Like, again, whoever goes through into this final will see Adam Karenyi, and whoever loses will see the battle for third and fourth against Matt Tilliard. So the two drivers are on the start line. Mike Marshall versus Paul Smith. We're just waiting for a go-ahead from the marshals and from the judges to say that it's safe to go. So here we go, second semi-final. Whoever wins this is through into the final against Adam Karenyi. Whoever loses is going for a battle for third and fourth against Matt Tilliard. So here we go. Paul Smith as the lead car from Team Japspeed. And we've got Team M&M driver Mike Marshall as the chase car. So both very aggressive into the first corner. Mike Marshall running very wide there, but a slight error from Paul Smith as well as they go up the hill into the second corner. Mike Marshall putting the power down just to try and close the gap as much as possible. Down the hill they go. Paul Smith just opens up that smoke screen. But Mike Marshall was not phased from that smoke screen, and both of them powering it round the final corner, making similar mistakes in the first and second corners, but not a bad run from both drivers. Both judges are going over to the telemetry and the action replays to try and watch it again, just to get a better indication of who made more errors than the other. Because obviously it's so important now. We're getting through. Whoever wins this is into the final. So whoever wins is walking away with a Recaro seat worth £2,000, which our sponsors Recaro have kindly put up today. So it's very important for all these drivers, because they want to take that away. But also it's important for also Adam Karenyi, because he's in the final and he competes in the full championship. So points are very important for him. Obviously, because he competes in the whole championship, so he wants to be up there to give him a good opportunity into round 4. Matt Tilliard, Mike Marshall, and Paul Smith are guest drivers for today. So they're just in it for a bit of fun, just to have a drive with some of the best drivers in Europe. So this is the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series. So the best drivers in Europe. So some of these UK drivers, it's just given them a chance to actually compete against these drivers. Some of these have never been driven against each other before, but two drivers who are used to driving together is Mike Marshall and Paul Smith, and into the first corner they go. Similar angles, similar speeds on the attack angles and tack speeds as they come up the hill into the second corner. Quite close. Paul Smith just nudging that E36 as they come out of the hairpin. Into the final corner they go. Loads of smoke from both drivers there and through over the line. So that was battle number 2. Like I say, whoever wins this goes through to the final against Adam Karenyi. Whoever loses goes through for a battle for third and fourth against Matt Tilliard. So, these decisions, it's hard to make these decisions. So the judges, again, are over at the replays, and they're watching them, and they're looking at telemetry as well to see who had the best attack angle and attack speed on the first corner. So just wait for a decision off the judges. Okay, so they reverted back to the telemetry, they reverted back to the action replays. One driver had an advantage in the first run, but then lost it. And then in the second run, the other driver had an advantage and then lost it. So what the drivers want to see is them run one more time. So we're going to run this again. By the looks of it, they're backing off the line, so maybe this might be a tyre change, maybe. Oh, no, they're reversing round, sorry. Yeah, they're switching round to run this one more time. Obviously, the car on the right-hand side is the lead car, so they're going to revert back round. So Paul Smith is going to be the lead car. Mike Marshall as the chase car again. So this is the one more time. Whoever wins this battle is going through to the final against Adam Karenyi. Adam Karenyi is one of the best drivers in Europe, so he's definitely going to be putting on a show and fighting for those points and that Recaro seat that Recaro have kindly put up as a winning prize for the end of the day, whoever wins. So yeah, so we're going to run this one more time. So Paul Smith is the lead car. Loads of angle into that first corner. More than Mike Marshall. Mike Marshall running wide, but Paul Smith just rubbing over the inside of the lip on that first corner. The gap's been closed a little bit as they're both coming round the hairpin. Paul Smith putting on that smoke screen again as they come round the final corner. But Mike Marshall, again, is not phased, but loads more angle from Paul Smith through that final corner again. So it's weird. It's like they're coming into the first corner and one driver's getting an advantage, and then he's losing it again on the final corner because, you know, he's putting in less angle and less speed than the other driver. So it's up and down at the moment with these drivers. Obviously, we normally see like so much consistency between drivers like this. Two British Drift champions running against each other, but, you know, still making slight errors. By the looks of it, Paul Smith just pulled over by his pit crew. It looks like he needs a tyre change. Obviously, it's so important to have your car at top notch, just to you know, you need it as good as possible. You need good fresh tyres and things. Obviously, you get more grip the newer the tyres they are and things. But also, it's a bit of a disadvantage as well because you're putting a new set of tyres on and the tyres are actually cold. So what you'll see is, for the people who are here at Lydden Hill watching it live, you'll see him change tyres. And as he goes up onto the line, he'll do like what we call a rolling burnout, which is basically they spin the wheels whilst on the left foot brake, and it'll just basically scrub off the newness of the tyres and puts a bit of heat into them as well, just to give you that little bit of extra grip, because obviously you want some heat in the tyres. You see in the F1 how they have those tyre warmers to heat the tyres up just to keep them warm, because obviously the hotter the tyre, the better the grip. And yeah, the drivers can actually pull what we call a 5-minute rule. And basically what that is as soon as they leave the start line, or as soon as they enter into the pits, the 5-minute start, and they have to be back on that start line within those 5 minutes. Unless, if they don't, it's automatic disqualification, and the driver who was on the line goes through to the next round. So Paul Smith is on a 5-minute rule, changing those tyres. It takes approximately about 2-3 minutes to change a set of tyres at the moment. Paul Smith from Team Japspeed has got a good support, and I think that was probably about 2 minutes, so it was a good quick tyre change there for Paul Smith. He's making his way back up to the start line. Paul Smith driving the Team Japspeed S15, powered by a Toyota 1JZ engine, pushing roughly about 460 brake horsepower. To be technically correct, it's a 1.5J. Basically, I won't go into it too much, but it's a bit between a 2J and a 1J. So yeah, a lot of modifications has gone into that Team Japspeed S15. But then, same respect, Mike Marshall, he's got a lot of work. He's put a lot of effort into that car as well. So here we go, second battle now. A big mangy flick there from Mike Marshall as they come into the first corner. Paul Smith is all over that E36 though as they come around the first corner, and then they go up the hill. Lots of smoke from those tyres as they enter into the hairpin. They're going to drop down the hill now. Oh, and then a bit of an error there from Mike Marshall. Sounding like he missed a gear maybe by the looks of it. But a big error there from Mike Marshall, causing Paul Smith to back off. Couldn't continue drifting, obviously, because of the speed was so low on Mike Marshall. You get this far and something small happens like that, whether it was missing a gear or something transmission. But I heard something clink through. We've got the window open here in the tower, and unfortunately, you know, it will be marked down for that. And you get this far into a competition, something so minimal can happen. We saw it before with one of the drivers. He missed a gear in the top 16, and you know, he just couldn't get it into gear, and it caused him to straight. He couldn't carry the drift on, and he got penalised for it and got knocked out. So that was a big error there for Mike Marshall, unfortunately. He will be marked down for it, so I'll just wait for a decision off the judges to see who progresses into the final against Adam Karenyi and who will be going for a battle for third and fourth against Matt Tilliard. Okay, so I can confirm that going through to the final against Adam Karenyi will be Paul Smith from Team Japspeed. Paul Smith will be going into the final against Adam Karenyi to be the winner today for the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. We are going to see a battle between Mike Marshall and Matt Tilliard, providing whatever happened to Mike Marshall is, you know, hopefully it's not an issue that has caused a breakage. I hope that he can go against Matt Tilliard, because obviously he still wants to run that battle. He's still got a position on the podium for number 3. So let's just see what happens. I think we're going to give Mike Marshall a bit of time to rectify it maybe, and then we're going to run the battle for third and fourth between Matt Tilliard and Mike Marshall. And then once we've found that out, we're going to run Adam Karenyi versus Paul Smith. So we've got Mike Marshall on a 5-minute rule. If you're watching the live feed, thank you very much today for watching. Just a bit of information on the next round for the King of Europe, the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series. This is round 3, the UK. The next event will be in 2 weeks. So round 4 will be in Poland in a place called Jastrom. If you require any information on the next round, if you log on to, if you go onto Facebook, facebook.com/KOE Drift. They've got over a million fans. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen today, get on Facebook, facebook.com/KOE Drift. Like the page, and you get all the information, all the updates about up and coming events. Also, obviously with the live stream, they put the links up to all the live streams and things, and you can watch it live if you're not able to make it. I'd like to thank the sponsors as well, because obviously without the sponsors today, this championship wouldn't be able to run. So we'd like to thank Monster Energy, Federal Tyres, Motul, KW, Dots Wheels, Recaro, Remus, and My Way Drift School. And I have mentioned it before, but big thanks to Recaro for actually putting up the prize for today, which is a Recaro carbon fibre race seat, which is worth £2,000. So we see seats that you can buy race seats for FIA approved race seats for £400-500 for a good seat. This is a carbon fibre race seat which is worth £2,000. So you can imagine how good this seat is. And whoever wins today out of Adam Karenyu and Paul Smith will be walking away with that prize. So it's a great prize. So thank you very much for Recaro for actually putting that prize up. It's great to see that the sponsors actually put up a lot of the prizes and support the drivers as well. They run certain competitions throughout the year, so to speak, like Motul. They have a competition right throughout the season. If you qualify and get through into the finals and things, if you don't have any breakages, so you don't pull any 5-minute rules, and you progress, and the more you progress, you get points if your car doesn't break. And then what happens at the end of the season, the points are then added up, and whoever has the most points for the least breakages, so basically it comes down to the most reliable car of the season, actually picks up a Motul sponsorship for next season. So that's absolutely fantastic. Federal run a competition as well. Obviously, Federal is a sponsor of the championship, but you've also got drivers that throughout the season use Federal tyres. And for the drivers who won't, for the only drivers that use Federal, obviously their points get added up as well to the end of the season. Whoever is the driver with the most points who uses Federal also wins a sponsorship into the next season of the KOE. Recaro again, they put up the seat for today. Dots, they run a championship, a competition throughout the season as well, of the fastest speed of the day. So basically, speeds are logged with this telemetry system all day. Whoever has the fastest speed, you have to qualify for it to count, but whoever has the fastest speed of the day then goes into a certain point system. Then the points get added up to the end of the season. Whoever wins that at the end of the season wins a Dots sponsorship. So, these sponsors support the drivers and the championship as well. It's fantastic to see how everything works together. It's absolutely fantastic. And then obviously they've got the team constructors as well. So this is it. We are now third place final. So whoever wins this goes through into the... whoever wins this gets the third position on the podium. Big wide angle there from Matt Tilliard. Both drivers, I think, are on a brand new set of tyres as well. You see a lot of smoke coming from those tyres. Bit of a sketchy run from both drivers there. Very fast, actually, but very shallow angle coming through that final corner. So we're just waiting for him to come over to the start line to run the second battle for third and fourth. I can tell you though, when I've got two microphones that I'm holding. One obviously goes around the track, around the speakers for you guys that are watching live. And then another microphone that I've got goes through to the live feed. Now, I can only announce who wins this battle on the live feed microphone. So, unfortunately, I can't announce it until you get to the podium for the people who are here. But for the meantime, let's watch this second battle. Loads of angle there from Matt Tilliard, but obviously creating a big gap there as they come up the hill into the hairpin. Matt Tilliard just trying to close that gap as possible, while Mike Marshall is putting in the same consistent runs that he has been all day. Fantastic run there from Mike Marshall, creating a huge gap over Matt Tilliard. Okay, so if you're watching the live feed, I can confirm that taking the third position for today's round 3 of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series is Mike Marshall. So Mike Marshall from Team M&M taking that third spot on the podium. So we have a winner of the third and fourth. I've now reverted back to the microphone around the track. Obviously, this is I've got two microphones. I've just announced who won third position on the live feed. So if you're at the track and you're live and you've actually got your tablet out or something and you're watching the live feed, you will know who got third position there. If not, then you're going to have to wait and you're going to have to come down to the podium with all the drivers and all the fans and all the sponsors and everything, and we're going to announce who takes that third position in today's round of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. You see Mike Marshall there just putting a bit of a parade lap as he exits the track. Just doing a bit of showing off as Matt Tilliard's making his way around as well. Obviously, the quicker we get the cars off the track, the quicker we can do the podium finishes. But some of the drivers, you know, they've got a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and the adrenaline's pumping. So, you know, they like to show off. Obviously, that was a battle for third and fourth. Show your appreciation, ladies and gentlemen, for these two drivers as they put on a bit of a show. And, you know, just give them a round of applause as they comes round if you're here at the track. If not, just appreciate what they're doing. I know you can't really see much at the moment on the live feed, but that is your third and fourth finalists for today's round of Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series. Obviously, if you're at home and you're watching us on a live feed, you know who won that battle. If you're around the track, you don't know who won that battle. So that was a parade lap then from both Mike Marshall and Matt Tilliard, just showing their appreciation for coming down to the track today to support them. But we've got one more battle left, the all-important final. You're watching the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. Down here at Lydden Hill, round 3, we've got one battle left, and that leaves Adam Karenyi against Paul Smith. Obviously, for Adam Karenyi, it's very important for these points, because obviously he wants to get as high in the championship as possible, because he's competing in the whole of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series. And then you've got Paul Smith from Team Japspeed, who's here just to, you know, show who he is, and, you know, to drive against these Europeans. Obviously, we don't get a lot of opportunity to drive against the Europeans a lot, you know, and they've really put on a great show today at Lydden Hill and yesterday, put some great qualifying runs in, some good practice was seen as well, and obviously you're watching on the live feed at home as well, so, you know, whoever you've been supporting today, I hope they've done well. But that leaves one battle left, Adam Karenyi versus Paul Smith. So here it is. This is what we've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, watching at home, watching live at the track. Here we've got the final. Paul Smith from Team Jatspeed against Adam Karenyi. Into the first corner we go. Big angle from both drivers there. Slightly different lines as they entered into the first corner, going up the hill into the hairpin. Some nice speed and angle from both drivers there. Paul Smith smoking up their Maxxis MAZ1 drift tyres. Little bit of a straight from both drivers as they enter up the hill into the third corner, over the line, putting on a great show for everybody. Absolutely fantastic consistency from both drivers there. Very hard to make a decision in my opinion, but obviously I'm just a commentator and I am not a judge. So the judges are reverting back to the telemetry that we've got. The telemetry gives you their attack speed and attack angle on the first corner. Also it gives you their average speed and average angle going through the clipping zones. And obviously then we've got the judges as well who make the overall final decision as well. It's got to be a unanimous decision because there's only two human judges. And obviously the telemetry is the third judge, so the telemetry will give us what we need to see, and then the judges will then make a unanimous decision who actually goes through either to the next round or in this case wins the actual event. So that was battle number one. The judges are just conferring because obviously we need a score. It's a ratio out of 10. If both drivers were consistent enough to drift and stick to the lines, it'd be a 5-5. If one makes a slight error, it goes to 6-4 either way. You know, 7-3, 8-2, 9-1, and if one driver spins or stops, it's a 10-0 straight away to the other driver. So it's always a ratio out of 10. So we need a score before we can set them off into the second battle. So the judges are just conferring together, and they're also looking at the telemetry as well. It seems to be a bit of a hard decision today because the driving has been so much similar. The drivers have been putting very consistent runs in, making slight errors, but both drivers have been making slight errors. So it's been quite a consistent day really when it comes to drifting. Obviously some of these drivers are the best in England, best in Europe as well. So it's been a great battles to see today. I hope you've enjoyed it at home. It's not finished yet. We've still got this one more battle left. Obviously, if they can't make a decision, they'll run them one more time. But we've still got this final battle to do before they make that final decision for who takes the first position and who takes the second position on the podium today for round 3 of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. Okay, so we've got a score for that first battle. It's going to come down to this last battle now. We see Adam Karenyi now take the lead position. Paul Smith's going to tuck in behind Adam. Adam Karenyi in the E46 BMW. Paul Smith in the Team Jatspeed S15. Into the first corner they go. Paul Smith just running slightly wider than Adam Karenyi into that first corner, just creating that slight gap, but Paul Smith seems to have closed it, using the power on that 1.5 JZ engine, Toyota-powered Nissan. Powering it round that last corner, loads of smoke from both drivers, putting on an absolutely fantastic show. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're here at the track, put your hands together for these two finalists, Adam Karenyi and Paul Smith. They're going to make their way back round to the start line, and let's see if the judges have made a decision. If they have, I will be turning the microphone off for the track, and I will be keeping the microphone on for the live feed and announcing who wins on the live feed. But for the people at the track, I will announce who takes that #1 position at the podium. So if you come down to the podium, but let's just see if they've made a decision first. Okay, so they've got a decision. For the guys at the track, for the guys and girls at the track, make your way down to the podium. I'm going to be turning the microphone off now. Thank you very much for listening today. Thank you very much for coming down and supporting us. I'll be logging off now from the track, and I will be going over to the live feed only. Okay, so for everybody at home, I can tell you taking that number 1 spot for round 3 of the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Series is Adam Karenyi. Adam Karenyi taking the first spot, taking that number 1 podium. He's in the whole championship. Those points mean so much to him. He's taking that number 1 position. And Paul Smokey Smith from Team Japspeed takes that 2nd spot. So you guys at home who are watching the live feed know exactly who's won. And for the people at the track, they've got to come down to the podium. But I hope you have had a fantastic time sat at home or wherever you are watching the live feed. I've been Anthony Cahill, your commentator for the day and yesterday. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to attend the next event, round 4 is in 2 weeks in Poland. If you log on to facebook.com/KOE Drift, you can like the page and you can get up to date with all the information on the championship. You've been watching the Monster Energy King of Europe Pro Drift Series. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you at round 4 in Poland in 2 weeks.